G'day there guys, no one is a match for my incredible debating skills in my head in the shower. It's Markee and welcome back to another episode of r/AmiTheA. Now if you love today's content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a like on the video and tell me what you think of it down in the comments. Posted by user ThrowRA2452T5. Titled, Am I the a-hole for not taking my daughter's anxiety seriously? I, 46 male, have a daughter, 19 female, who has anxiety. She was fine both socially and mentally before, but around age 12 to 13, something happened to her. I'm guessing that it's her starting high school that made her start having it, because she would skip class constantly and fake being sick all the time. This made her social life crumble and me and her argue all the time. She currently still lives with us, doesn't have any friends or a job. She mostly spends time on the computer. She gets panic attacks from needing to do things like make a phone call or answer the door. Most of this anxiety seems to come from her not wanting to grow up or being scared of the world. I was first sympathetic, but it's gotten to the point where she's a freeloader who doesn't try to do anything. I don't hate her, but I wish she'd move out so me and my wife could have some time where we don't focus all of our time and attention on her anymore, but on each other. Yesterday, she went to a job interview, and she was understandably nervous. I was too when I got my first job, and I tried to make her know she can do it. I was really happy she decided to try and become independent, and hoped this would lead to a chain of events making us free from her. It went great. Until she called crying and said she apparently was too scared to continue the interview and ran away when she said to the interviewer she just needed to go to the bathroom. This was the last straw for me. I yelled at her, saying it's time to grow up and she can't let her fears control her, and she has to get a job or I'm kicking her out of the house. I was tired of letting her rule the household just because her mind was a little screwed up. She got really upset when she came home and wouldn't talk to me. My wife, who coddles her quite a lot, got really mad at me, saying to me that she needs time. Am I the a-hole? I mean, she's 19 right now. There is time to go, OP, and the world isn't in a great place currently. I don't think you can blame someone with anxiety for having it become so much worse in these times, and, not getting better because you are not supporting them. I get that you feel like there is a line where she should be better, but I feel like you also don't understand mental illness quite enough, and you're coming from a place of huge ignorance. If the situation isn't suiting you, maybe it's time for you to leave and to work on yourself some more, because it's obvious that your daughter does need help. I think that you are the a-hole in this situation. You sound like an awful parent who doesn't love their kid, and you're seriously hoping that Reddit will validate and say anything other than you're the a-hole? First of all, you clearly have no idea what caused your daughter to switch from outgoing to an anxiety-crippled person at age 12 to 13. You automatically dismiss it as something petty, like starting school, but it could have been triggered by something serious, such as sexual assault or severe bullying. Rather than get to the bottom of it and being supportive, you have dismissed her throughout her teenage years as being a pathetic inconvenience and a freeloader. No wonder she hasn't confided in you or gotten any better. Secondly, you have clearly done no research on anxiety and depression or looked up the symptoms. These mental health issues can cause actual physical symptoms which are scary and difficult to cope with, such as palpitations, a tight feeling in the chest of not being able to breathe, panic attacks, nausea, stress, headaches, profuse perspiration, exhaustion. Yet, rather than trying to understand what she's going through by researching it or providing your daughter with a safe space, you berate her, call her lazy, and threaten to kick her out. Third, it would seem that because you dismiss everything that she's going through, that you haven't bothered to get your daughter help. Therapy and counseling can help with the underlying issues that have caused your daughter to withdraw and feel this way, and can also teach coping mechanisms so that she can gradually get better at coping with her symptoms. A lot of people with her condition also take medication. You won't get your daughter help, yet you expect her to get better. She can't just flick a switch and suddenly be okay. If she had broken her back in a car accident, would you expect her to suddenly start walking tomorrow and berate her if she couldn't? Or would you understand that she needs months of physical therapy and assistance? Recovering from any type of illness, mental or physical, requires treatment and support. Lastly, 19 is a very young age at which to withdraw support from your kid. In case you hadn't noticed, the world sucks and has done for young people for a number of years. Rental prices, lower wage for under 21s, and the high cost of living screw young people big time. And that was even before the pandemic. And so most young people continue to live at home until some point between 25 to 30. The economy in most countries is collapsing because of the pandemic, and unemployment is high, yet you expect your daughter to do what a lot of people can't and get a job, whilst also battling a mental health issue. I just can't get over how many ways you're the a-hole. If you don't love her or can't bring yourself to act like you do, maybe you would be doing her a favor by cutting her off. Yeah, don't exactly see how OP could possibly see themselves as in the right in this situation. Everything they wrote just shows how much he doesn't care about his daughter's well-being. You're the a-hole. Posted by user AmiTheA Boob Padding. Titled, Am I the a-hole for asking my date why her boobs got smaller? I am, or I guess I was, dating this girl, Amanda. We went on a couple dates together, and we decided to have sex today. So we went to my place, and after she tidied up, her boobs got noticeably smaller. I just asked her because I thought she was padding. It's not like her bra was padded because she was still wearing it. It turns out she used a prosthetic breast because she had a mastectomy after surviving breast cancer. The thing is, I never knew any of this. She never told me, and safe to say we didn't have sex that night, and she called me an a-hole for pointing her out on her lie. I seriously don't know why I'm the a-hole. Some of my female friends also said I was being an a-hole because I shouldn't ever say that to a woman. They compared it to my dick, which makes no sense. You can't see dick cleavage. So, am I the a-hole? I don't know, OP, if you wear some nice sweatpants, some gym pants, maybe you can see a little bit of dick cleavage. Just saying. But it's definitely a sensitive issue for her. I don't know why you would say that. I guess in the heat of the moment, your monkey brain turned on and you're just like, hey, look at that. I wasn't expecting this. It's not okay to say. It's just not alright, OP. You're an a-hole for doing what you did. I'm not surprised she broke up with you. I hope you take this as a lesson to not point out people's flaws in front of them, especially something as serious as this. She's lucky to have survived breast cancer. A lot of people don't, and you should feel bad for doing what you did, OP. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. You say that you called her out on her lie of using prosthetic breasts, but one wouldn't say that someone using a realistic prosthetic leg was lying about having a real leg. You didn't know, and it's okay that you didn't know. But asking her, why did your chest get smaller, when she's partially or fully naked and vulnerable, really is a dick move. A good general rule is that you should never assume that something that appears cosmetic is purely cosmetic, and you should afford those things the same respect and grace you would give to someone with a condition that impacts their life. Even if she was padding and stuffing, how is it a lie? Push-up bras aren't lies, makeup isn't lies, waist supports are not lies. Changing your appearance is not lying, it's just taking agency over what you want to look like. You're the a-hole. You can't see dick cleavage. The point is that you just point-blank asking her why her boobs got smaller was rude. Just like someone seeing your small penis and saying, why is your penis small, would be rude. It doesn't matter that her boobs changed sizes. It's not a big deal. It's not something you need to address up front. That's just so childish and rude. I'm sure it was weird seeing her with noticeably smaller boobs, but bro, you gotta keep it to yourself. You were probably gonna get laid and then messed it up because you have no class or tact. People don't have to disclose these things like that to people they barely know. You're wording it like her not telling you she had cancer was some betrayal to you, like lying about an STD or being a Nazi. People don't have to talk to people about their traumatic health issues with the person they've gone on a couple of dates with. How would you feel if you had to have a piece of your body chopped off, and then you wore something to help make you feel normal afterwards, and some jerk called you out on it like you were a lying fraud or something? Evaluate yourself, man. You sound insanely petty, and I hope this poor girl has the wits to stay away. Sir, whilst I understand your disappointment, I also hope you do see the irony of your behavior as well. You think she lied about her boob size even though she has not explicitly lied to you about the actual size. I'm assuming both of you haven't had a discussion prior to that night. But why isn't it also then that you lied to her about your expectations, that you require that the woman that you date to have a certain boob size? Yet she didn't discuss her actual boob size, but neither did you reveal your expectations as well. Would your lack of discussion then constitute as lying? You're the a-hole because she's not obliged to tell you her medical history. That isn't lying. You can't force cancer survivors to show their scars to the world when they aren't ready for it. Not the a-hole. I seriously don't understand the people saying otherwise. You're on a date with the possibility of having sex, potential partner goes into a different room and comes back with a significant and immediately noticeable physical change with no previous explanation of why that change would be happening. That could absolutely be a red flag that this person isn't who you think they are. It's perfectly fudging reasonable to ask about it. I get it if she was a little embarrassed, but she can't be mad about him asking when she has never warned him before. Had OP asked just out of surprise and curiosity, then it'd be a no a-holes here situation. What makes OP the a-hole is that she explained, and it sounds like he went on about it. And when typing it up here, he calls it a lie. This sounds a lot like men who think women who wear makeup are lying. You're the a-hole. She was missing a body part and didn't tell him. It's not the same. He was surprised and put his foot in his mouth and could not process it fast enough. He might be an idiot, but if he is an a-hole, then she is as well, because she did not prepare him. I say no a-holes here. Posted by user, Am I the a-hole told a baby? Titled, Am I the a-hole for explaining my pregnancy to my friend's child? I'm pregnant, and it's a source of fascination for one of my very close friend's daughter. She's constantly asking me about it, and is thrilled to touch my belly and see the baby growing. Apparently, she's been asking tons of questions about it, and my friend told her daughter some age-appropriate version of what's going on. Next time I saw her daughter, she told me that she knew all about how the baby was growing in my tummy. Well, obviously a baby is not growing in my stomach, so I asked her what her mother told her. And she told me a very inaccurate, frankly, strange telling of how babies are made. So I told her the truth. I think my version was still kid-friendly, but I told her the facts of conception and that sort of thing, and explained where the baby really is. I also explained that you don't always need to have a husband, and gave her the basics of sperm and egg, etc. Yeah, so, excited about her newfound knowledge, she told her mother everything that I told her, and now my friend is furious with me, and isn't speaking with me for undermining her parenting, and introducing her daughter to concepts she's not ready to fully explain. I still think if my friend is going to be using me as a teaching moment, she should at least teach her daughter what's right. I also, personally, don't believe in lying to kids, and given how sexual education is lacking in my country, I think it's important to start the conversation young, do away with misinformation, and make sex less mysterious so that open communication can be had. Am I the a-hole? Yes, it's not your kid, it's not your turn to parent this kid. You had no right to be undermining her parenting like that, genuinely. Your reasoning for thinking that you can educate this kid just because sexual education is lacking in your country and you don't believe in lying to kids, it doesn't hold water like you think it does. You're just going to destroy friendships, and people are going to give you the side eye for this. It's socially unacceptable behavior. You should know that it's socially unacceptable behavior, and it's genuinely doing no one any favors. You may continue to tell yourself that you're doing the God's work all you want, but you're really just disadvantaging everyone. It's not doing anyone any good while she's still this young, and you're the a-hole. When the girl was telling you what mummy said, that should have been a pretty clear indicator to you about how your friend wanted to address these intimate conversations with her child. It doesn't matter whether or not you disagree with the approach, it was not your place to approach this. I agree with you that it's important to be honest with kids, but there's also such a thing as age-appropriate readiness. You don't give her daughter's age, but it sounds like she's pretty young. Giving honest details is not a call you get to make. Yep, I'm a kindergarten teacher. The amount of times I've been asked about where babies come from is more times than I can count, and while I definitely could have given a kid-friendly version of the facts, I always told them to go ask their families. One day, I remember my kiddos were talking about polar bears. We had just finished a unit comparing polar bears and penguins. One of my girls helpfully chimes in, "I know about polar bears. Boy polar bears have balls, and girl polar bears have vaginas." I called her over and immediately said that while I thought it was great that she had all this knowledge, some families don't want their children to know these things yet, so she had to keep it to herself for now. I can't imagine just overriding a parent's wishes like that, unless the parent is teaching their child to be outright racist or homophobic against other people. Posted by user Am I the A-hole Punctuality? Titled, Am I the a-hole for putting my low-functioning autistic brother in a permanent care home and not letting him live with me? My 29 older brother, Liam, 35, name changed, was born with low-functioning autism. Since I was born, my life and my choices and everything I wanted to do took a backseat compared to my brother. My parents doted on him and bought him everything. Anything I would ask for got shot down. They always told me that he needed things to stay calm, and I should adjust since I was not autistic. He was not expected to do anything around the house, even though he was fully capable of doing a lot of things, and I had to do everything from cooking to taking care of him while both my parents worked. I had nothing memorable in my childhood, as I spent all of it taking care of him. As I grew older, my mother would always say that it was my responsibility to take care of him when they pass away, to have him live with me so he will always have family, and that I was born to take care of him. She would tell me I'm an angel for my brother, to help him in his life. I hated it. I had dreams of my own, goals I wanted to achieve, but my friends and parents told me I was being insensitive. But when I hit 18, I took off. I left home and moved across the country and left a note saying I will be doing what I want and did not care about what my parents wanted me to do. My family and friends called me heartless and bombarded me with calls demanding I come back, but I refused and cut contact. Recently, my parents passed away. I got a call from my cousin, one of the only people who seemed to understand. Having been away from them for so many years, I did not feel anything but a slight sadness. I traveled to my city and was told that my brother was living with our aunt temporarily. I visited him before the funeral, and my family pretended like they had not spent all these years calling me heartless and sending me hate. They hugged and welcomed me. It was strange. Then they gave me all the bags with my brother's stuff and told me that he would be moving in with me. I laughed, which seemed to anger them. I told them that if they were going to dump my brother on me, I will put him in a care home. The whole family erupted into screaming at me, and I left the house. I decided I had to get this over with, and called up a reputable care home in my city, and made provisions for my brother to stay there permanently. I picked my brother up, and a week later, dropped him off there. He didn't mind, and he never speaks, but said goodbye and nothing else. I'm paying for this out of my own pocket. My wife told me that he can live with us if it was required, but I said that is not happening. My family found out and have been blowing up my phone again, calling me an abandoner, a horrible person, and insensitive. My wife told me again that he can stay with us, and I said I would hate that. I spent 18 years of my life being not a child, but a caretaker for my brother. She understood, but my family hates me. Even my cousin said I have made the wrong decision. I feel more guilty than I ever have, so I'm asking, am I the a-hole? Edit, I apologize for using the phrase low functioning. Based on some of the comments here, I've learnt it is derogatory. In my country, it is just a term that shows how capable they are of individual living and did not have any negative connotations. Thank you for educating me. I'm with OP on this one. I think, he's done his 18 years. The parents made it clear that he was not a son, he was born to be a caretaker. And, maybe we can give them a pass if they never did that, they just subtly hinted it. But the parents made their intentions known that the brother was nothing but a caretaker to them, and he was going to be passed off once they died. That is so incredibly heartless from the parents to do that to him, and then to not make any other arrangements for their autistic son had this plan not come through. They just put all their cards on one table, probably blew all their money, and then were like, yep, alright, you're on your own now, kid, good luck. They didn't care about either of their sons. If you think about it, they did not care about either of those children. That is so heartless for those parents. And the rest of the family, of course they're going to be hypocritical. They don't want to look after that son either. Why should they? When they can just attack the one son who's done it all their life, why should they expect him to do any differently? Because, being a hypocrite is just all the rage these days. God hate a man that wants to live his own life, free from being a caretaker for someone. After spending 18 years with them, we can't have that. Everyone, dogpile him now. He's going to take responsibility so that we don't have to. I don't blame OP for any of the stuff they've done. It kind of broke my heart seeing that he just said goodbye and he's in the home, but it's the best option for that boy. He is wanted in that care home. He's not wanted with family, he's not wanted with OP. So, rock in a hard place, this is the best choice. OP had to make it and OP did it, and I commend them for it. Not the a-hole. You aren't born to be their caretaker. If your family is getting so upset over it, why aren't they stepping up and offering, since it must be so easy to take care for them if they are willing to try and force it on you? Edit, it was likely they were born with intent to be. My wording was bad for this comment. I'm also meant they shouldn't have been born with intent for them just to be the caretaker. OP's family is upset because they don't want to be inconvenienced by the burden of being a caregiver. I suspect they're embarrassed at themselves for not wanting to care for him, and it's coming out as anger towards OP, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. If your family really cared about your brother and not about appearances, then one of them would have taken him in. You're in no way qualified to take care of a low-functioning autistic adult. You have no credentials, no studies based in specified medical healthcare, I assume, nor do you have the free time. Again, I assume you're not a billionaire with nothing but time and money on your hands. You haven't seen him for over a decade. It's unreasonable, unfair, and wrong for them to assume that someone who hadn't seen him for an entire decade would just up and become a bona fide professional caretaker. Your parents were garbage, I'm sorry to say. How on earth could your mother literally just tell you while you were a child that you were born to become your older brother's caretaker? Like, Jesus. Looking at all of this makes me feel like you might be the only one who's looking at your brother as an actual person. You are paying for professional care at a reputable place that can actually meet your brother's needs. Does your family not understand that your brother is a whole-ass person? Taking care of a whole other human being with low-functioning autism is different from taking care of a dog with special conditions. It really sounds like your family just wants to look good. I can't believe they packed everything and had all his bags ready to just get rid of your brother before the funeral even happened. That's heartless. How could they bag him up like a hamster that they're trying to pass off to someone else? I think that as long as you check up on him every now and then, make sure that the care home isn't abusing him or slacking on taking care of him, then it's all good. Posted by user SnooPainting9288, titled, Am I the a-hole for punishing my son after he said something racist? About a week ago, my 39 female family ordered Chinese food for delivery. When the delivery driver came to the door, my daughter, 16 female, was taking the cat upstairs to put in her room because he always tries to eat the food. My son, 13 male, loudly says, "Make sure to hide the cat from the Chinese guy," as I'm at the door getting the food from the Chinese delivery driver. He very obviously heard what my son said and was upset by it. I quickly apologized and took the food. I told my son that racist jokes were completely unacceptable and very wrong, and he refused to admit that he was in the wrong. So later that night, I forced my son to write a sincere apology to the delivery driver. His name was on the receipt, as well as write a one-page paper on Chinese culture and a one-page paper on why racism is perpetuated by racist jokes and stereotypes. Then the next day I took him to the restaurant and had him read his apology aloud to the delivery driver, as well as give him the papers he wrote. The driver was very appreciative of the apology and thanked me for making my son do it. He then told my son about multiple instances where he had faced racist comments and attacks from people while he was a delivery driver. That night, my husband, 43 male, and I got into an argument about me making our son do this. He told me that it was embarrassing for our son to have to do the apology and that the punishment didn't fit the crime. I told him that it was much more embarrassing for the driver to have to face that kind of racism and racist stereotypes, and that our son would get over the embarrassment. I do not condone any kind of hateful thinking in my house, and the fact that my son said that embarrassed me as well. My husband told me that it was just a joke and it wasn't that big of a deal. I feel like I might have just overreacted some, but I think it's important to help my son understand how what he said was wrong and hurtful. I'm completely in agreement with the OP here. It was disgusting what the son did, and not everyone gets punished like that, and that's a good way to stop the son from doing it again in the future. You gotta get a big old slice of humble pie, and this is a great way to do it. I don't get why the husband thought it was just a joke. That's kind of enabling racism, because it was a big deal. You don't make those jokes to people's faces. You can make those jokes to yourself all you want. You can just keep that to yourself. But you do not say that to these people. You do not. You just do not be racist to people. It is not a joke. It is a big deal. I support what OP has done, and I like that they did it. OP, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole? Sounds like your husband could use the lesson too. My first thought after hearing the dad's reaction, guess why the son thinks it's okay? OP not the a-hole, dad quite possibly the a-hole. The son heard that cat comment somewhere. Could be that dad says bigoted things to their son when OP isn't around, or at minimum, doesn't counter hate speech when he hears it. Dad is definitely an ass, but by the age of 10, kids will definitely have heard that stereotype in school or on the internet. No matter how good a parent you are, a kid will hear and pick up things from outside sources. As a parent, it's your role to not shelter them and expect them to never hear such things, but to ensure that when they do, they don't adopt them, so that the kid knows what is acceptable and what isn't. Especially because you have no idea if he's saying this around other Asian kids, where there's even more damage. I remember all the racism I faced in school, that I had tiny eyes, or I ate dogs, or Chinese people were barbaric, and always drowned their girl babies. I'm a girl, and my parents didn't drown me. But it left a lasting impression, and often I wished I was white so I could be normal. But if we fight back, we're too sensitive. People would taunt me with ching chong and tell me to go back to where I came from. But if I called them white people in the context of, I'm tired of white people treating us like that, it was whoa, 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 not all white people, stop stereotyping us. Even if they had just made the dog-eating joke. Anyway, not the a-hole OP, thanks for teaching your kids to do better. Not the a-hole. Your son may have been embarrassed, but he should be embarrassed for having said a racist joke. That kind of joke is meant to embarrass and humiliate the target, the delivery guy. You did right by your son by turning that around and showing him that his attitudes and jokes are the real embarrassment. Soon he will be too old to teach not to be racist. You are a great parent, and I hope your son takes this lesson to heart. Yep, the driver is the wronged party here, not the son. Like you said, he should have felt embarrassed by what he did. The dad minimizing it as just a joke is meaningless, and it's one of those things that people do to excuse stuff like that. It's not okay, and good on OP. Posted by user Throwaway392071. Titled, Am I the a-hole for making fun of a white girl for being poor because she was being racist? I'm Asian, more specifically one of the only Chinese people in my grade, which has been absolutely fun these days. So the girl in question has been racially harassing me since the beginning of lockdown, when she DM'd me and said, "Did the bat taste good? Thanks a lot, you fudging freak." I reported her to my school, and they literally just dropped it because they said tensions were high, and she couldn't be blamed because her uncle had the virus. Some BS like that. Then I got repeated messages like that from fake and newly created accounts that I suspect were from her, and I just kept blocking them until I guess she gave up because I wasn't reacting. My school district has chosen to do in person. Massively dumb in my opinion, but whatever. On the literal second day of school, she walks up to me while I'm in my lunch line and says in a thick Asian accent, "Are you eating bat dumpling or dog noodle?" Other people around me fudging laughed, and I'm sure I don't have to explain this, but I felt fudging humiliated. I finally felt like I got her off my back for a little while, and she comes back as soon as school starts, and I already know my school administration isn't going to go to bat for me. I don't know a lot about this girl since obviously I try to avoid her, but I did know that she had crappy teeth, lived in a trailer, and was very poor. I'm ashamed to have stooped to this, but I just wanted to show her how I felt for once, so I said, "I'd be less concerned with what I'm eating if I were you, and more worried about your diet since you're the one who needs to figure out how to brush her teeth in a trailer with no running water. Stop trying to get sent to a hospital when you can't afford healthcare." Other students nearby me told me I went too far because it wasn't her fault she was poor. Like it was my fault I was Asian? She literally fudging cried, like I didn't cry every time she called me a fudging chink. She left me alone ever since though, which doesn't matter since I plan on transferring anyways. There's really not much I can add to this one. It's a very apparent you're not the a-hole in this situation. Sometimes it's not okay to lash out at people like that. I feel like this is a rare circumstance where, you know what, just let it out. Let those frustrations out. She's given you more than enough, room where it's justified in a response. She's disgustingly racist, and we've learnt from the last story that racism ain't cool, kids. Don't do it. So yeah, OP, not the a-hole. Backing down to bullies never works. You have to hit back or they never stop. It's sad but true. Narcissists and other entitled people only respond to extremely firm boundaries and harsh consequences if they break them. She's young, so she may actually have learnt something. Learnt this the hard way. I always thought being kind will set an example, but in this world, nope. The girl probably targeted you to make her feel less bad about her crappy life. And good job for transferring. What a crap school. Being kind does set an example in regular situations, but when you get bullied or someone is being a dick, it's better to just be a dick back and solve it that way. Worked for me. Not the a-hole, in my opinion. I was made fun of for being gay as a kid and developed a sharp tongue by way of defense. I would often get in trouble for making kids cry, even though I was defending just myself. Just be careful of how you hurt people and recognize that you have the power and yield it with responsibility. Not to be a jerk, but this is probably the case with a trailer park girl as well. She makes fun of others because she has gotten made fun of herself. Happy and secure people don't bully others. I don't care that OP did that though. Sometimes you have to stand up for yourself. Nah, I don't think the trailer girl is making fun of others. Her behaviors are unacceptable and racist. Making fun of others is an unacceptable thing to do whether racist or not. Racism is just one way of making fun of others. It's not even the worst. You could make fun of someone because their sibling died, or because their parents are drug addicts. Posted by user CourageClassic6141. Titled, Am I the a-hole for making fun of a woman for being in her 40s and single? This whole saga started because my husband took my last name. A couple weeks ago, he got his workplace to change it, and his co-workers found out. About half of them think this is the funniest thing ever, and about half are deeply offended. Brenda is in the offended half, and has made that clear. He and I are in a group chat with his co-workers where we organize carpooling during this pandemic. It is very helpful to us, so we can't leave the chat. Since he changed his name, my husband and I have been dealing with a lot of dumb jokes in the chats, which we have been mostly ignoring. Yesterday, Brenda, his co-worker, and I got into a bit of a spat. I messaged the group chat asking if someone could take my husband home, since I wouldn't be back from work until late and needed the car. One of his other co-workers agreed, and I thought that was that. Brenda messages the group saying, maybe if you spent less time at work and more time being a wife, your husband wouldn't come into work with dirty shirts. I took this as a bad joke initially. My husband is a rural mail carrier, so his shirts look like shirts worn by someone in 90-degree heat on dusty roads. I do wash them, but there's only so much to be done. I say, I could make cleaning those shirts my full-time job, and it wouldn't do much, lol. She says, you won't be married very long if you keep trying to be the man in the relationship. I'd be embarrassed as a wife if I did so little for my husband. And I say, well, I work more hours and pay the bills, so I think he can OxyClean his own shirts if it's so important. Maybe you should learn to take proper care of your husband, or you'll find yourself divorced. I'll let you know when I need relationship advice from someone who's 42 and single. Now, apparently Brenda is going around and saying that I mocked her for being single in her 40s. I don't care if someone is single in their 40s, but I think it's absolute bullcrap that she can call me a bad wife, but I can't point out that she has no frame of reference. Am I the a-hole, Reddit? Edit. People keep asking why I need to help arrange rides in the first place. When my husband is out on deliveries, he rarely has cell service. So if I find out late that I'm going to be home late, I need to be able to reach his co-workers directly. Multiple spouses are in the chat for the same reason. Edit 2. People are saying that I've hurt my husband's feelings by saying I pay the bills. After reading the exchange, he sent me a text saying, sometimes I forget you're a little hard tramp who takes no prisoners. I'm so proud, lol. He's fine. I asked him just now if my comment about the bills hurt him, and he said, oh yeah, it's so hard having a hot wife who makes good money. Really tough. Pray for me. I can see why some people might think that OP is an a-hole for saying that. It's not always great to take a jab at people like that, but again, it's another situation where this woman was asking for it, and you're not going to put her in her place when she's being rude to you like that? Out of nowhere? Like, what did OP do to warrant this woman's spite? I don't see it coming from any logical place. It seems that that was coming from a place of jealousy and complete self-consciousness. There is no justifying that woman's attacks. I think OP was justified to do what they did, not the a-hole, and it's good to stand up for yourself in these situations. Not the a-hole. I don't even think I need to explain why. She brought this on herself. It's like watching Wile E. Coyote trying to catch the falling anvil, only to hold up a little umbrella and a sign saying, what am I doing? Not the a-hole. What the hell, Brenda? Mind your own single business. Yeah, Brenda needs to wind her neck in. Sounds like a jealous, bitter one. Obvious not the a-hole. Brenda was the aggressor, and super condescending, and pretty sexist in my opinion, and you hit her back with a zinger. Now salty Brenda wants to play the victim. P.S. Am I the only one who thinks it's odd that you had to ask the husband's work group for a ride home for him, and him not just asking himself? And OP says, he was already out delivering when I got told I was staying late, and there's not always cell service. By the way, your husband's response to pray for him made me snort laugh. Congrats on being an awesome couple. Not the a-hole at all. She came out of left field and started insulting you for no reason. On top of that, she interjected herself into your marriage. Your retort was logical. What business does she have giving people unsolicited marriage advice when she's not in a successful marriage herself? For the future, don't engage. Simply say something like, "Your remarks are inappropriate. I will not lower myself and respond to such comments. Do not speak to me unless you have something relevant to carpooling to say." And OP replies, "I did say that to her once after an unsolicited rant about men who change their last names and mannish women, but she didn't stop." Posted by user Short Substance, titled, "Am I the a-hole for cutting my kid's day out short? I've been looking after my daughter, 13, alone for the past few months because my wife is stranded abroad and can't get back into the country due to the pandemic. It's been pretty good mostly because I've been able to work from home. Yesterday, however, I had a crucial work meeting about a major contract, so to avoid distractions, I sorted out a playdate with one of my daughter's friends for the day, and I dropped her to the friend's house about an hour away. I drive over, I drop her, and drive back by about 10:30. I'm about 20 minutes into what should be a 2/3 contract negotiation when I get a text from my kid asking if we can get McDonald's on the way back. Now, that was a code message I'd said to her to say that if you're feeling uncomfortable with the situation or what's going on, call me or text me or mum that, and we'll come and get you wherever you are, and it wouldn't be obvious to anyone listening that she's trying to get away. I text her back, all okay, and she just texts back saying, I'm very hungry, please get McDonald's on the way back. At this, I'm worried, so I make excuses to my partners, who were annoyed by my dipping out, and I start to rush over there. When I get there, everything is fine. Turns out it was just a prank. She'd told her friend about the message, and they both thought how cool it would be if they made me drive back up again. I was incensed. I told her that was the end of the playdate and how disappointed I was. I also said we were going back home that instant. I made my apologies to the friend's mum and took my kid home. My daughter complained to her mum how I cut the playdate short, and now she wasn't allowed to go out with another friend the next week. My wife spoke to me and said she agrees with me that our daughter did wrong, but said it might be easier for everyone if we let her go out next week. I said no, and that not only had she made it hard to trust her again, if she is in genuine danger, which is the worst thing, she also unknowingly lost my company 6 figures in lost business. I had to email my side of the presentation to a partner, and because it wasn't their area of expertise, they didn't impress the clients. While I know that isn't directly their fault, I still believe that actions should have consequences, and it doesn't make me particularly vindictive to see those followed through. Yeah, so I guess this is the first time the daughter has had to deal with consequences like this by the sounds of it, and it was a prank, and actions have consequences, as do a lot of things. Classic case of the boy who cried wolf in this situation, and she does need to know that it's only an emergency. You can't be playing with fire with this. I can see why the mum wants to let her go hang out with friends next week, to be fair, but I don't know if the daughter would learn her lesson if you did let her go and do that. So I think the unfortunate reality here is that you do need to cancel that second meetup as well, and really drill into the daughter the reality of the situation. Like, there are places you're going to find yourself where you genuinely need to do this. And the consequence of you doing this today is you've lost my company a lot of money. I know it doesn't particularly pertain to the family dynamic, but it's still very important overall. So in conclusion, OP is not the a-hole. Classic example of play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Your daughter knew that the code meant that she needed to leave right then and there, and made you drive all the way back and skip work. She deserves her punishment, and maybe even more. I'd ground my kid from several things for that. She knowingly made you think she was in a bad situation, and had you drive all the way there when she knew you had important work. Don't budge on your decision. Yup, and honestly, it's a perfect consequence. She made OP leave work to come get her, her playdate is over, simple as that. I think a few lectures need to be added in too. Business conference for OP aside, what if something happened to OP while he was rushing to get his daughter that was crying wolf? I actually think you're being pretty lenient in her punishment, OP. not the a-hole. She's 13. Go ahead and let her know there were business consequences and what they were. Let her know that she put OP on thin ice and their job is shaky, and that if they lose their job, the results will be X, Y, and Z. She needs to know that there are real-world consequences too. She's old enough to know that she cost the company money and put Dad's job in jeopardy. Perhaps next time she wants, not needs, an expensive item, she can be reminded of this. I would love to get that for you, but you cost us that bonus, so we can't afford it. Do it only once, unless she shows no remorse. And for those who are going to say this makes it look like work and money is more important than her, he proved that she's more important when he dropped everything to go and get her. She definitely has to do some work to get his trust back. 13 is definitely old enough for that. If OP's actions are genuinely done without resentment, vindictiveness, or even undue blame, and are actually used simply as a teaching moment of actions have consequences, I think these are more than adequate measures to take. If OP outright explains that you are my number one priority, especially when you're potentially uncomfortable or in danger, I want you to trust me to come and drop everything to come and get you when you use that phrase. Or if you ever otherwise ask or need me to, but in return, I need to also be able to trust you. You damaged that trust with this prank, and I don't ever want to have to ask you if you're sure you're uncomfortable or feeling threatened. I think she will understand that these punishments aren't vindictive, but consequences for breaking your trust in her. At the very least, she will think twice before ever pulling something like this again. Posted by user ThrowRA Uruka. Titled, Am I the a-hole for building a fence and blocking my neighbors from the road, forcing them to take a massive detour? So I'm the owner of a large house with a huge property surrounding it. When I bought my property 5 years ago, I basically lived at least 5 minutes away from the nearest house. However, the villages and towns have been expanding, and as a result started developing houses next to my property. I was fine with it. Nothing I could do about it to begin with, but my property is big enough not to really notice to begin with, or so I assumed. It's good to mention I basically pulled out a bunch of trees when I moved here and made a dirt road with gravel of sorts to allow me easy access to the main road nearby instead of driving all the way around to access the main road. Well, soon after people started moving into the houses, I noticed that people basically used my little road to access the main road nearby, and kids used my field to play football. I was pretty much okay with it because it wasn't bothering me or inconveniencing me. Until a few months later that was. Basically, whenever people had a party or a gathering, I noticed my road and the field which they drove over was full of cars. And a few weeks later, some people straight up started using it as a parking area. I had multiple talks with multiple people, and the results ranged from apologetic people moving their cars to aggressive people who told me to go F myself. I finally had enough and started getting cars towed, which led to people yelling at my girlfriend in particular. As such, I built a large stone fence around my entire property. Well, multiple neighbors, including the aggressive ones, were all apologetic and asked me to remove the fence, and how sorry they were for using it, as they basically had to add 15 to 20 minutes to their travel time to work without my shortcuts. I told them to go F themselves and get the F off my property, and if I saw them there again, I'd be letting my dogs loose. However, this is also impacting the nice neighbors, so I am conflicted. It really looks like one of those situations where it's all or nothing. If you start letting the nice neighbors through, eventually it might turn into one side versus the other, and humans are tribal, and we really don't want to do that because you will start so much more drama than it's worth. Either you let everyone in, or you let no one in. Seems to be the simple solution, and either choice, you're not the a-hole for doing so. It's your property, you get to do whatever you want with it. Unfortunately, these people have abused their privileges, and that's just life. Not the a-hole. Your property, your rules. Also, if you didn't do this, you could potentially have ended up giving them a right-of-way easement without realizing it, depending on your local laws. Don't budge, leave the fence. Maybe they will think in the future about asking for permission instead of forgiveness. I didn't. Right-of-way applies if they need my property to access their own. They can all leave their property as my house is next to the road, not any houses. What Starfleet was saying is that you were in danger of creating a legal right-of-way across your property by allowing your neighbors to use that as shortcut. If you allow it for too long, not only do you lose the right to block it off, you also become liable for its maintenance and any injuries or accidents that occur due to lack of it. Glad I blocked it off then. Not the a-hole. This was the right call. Invite the nice neighbors and their kids over for a nice barbecue once it's safe to do so. You can totally find ways to be friendly without letting the crap neighbors take advantage of you or put you in a bad legal situation. Congrats on the new fence. It'll be the best neighbor you'll ever have. Invite neighbors over and apologetically say that you had to do it because insurance was getting sky high. If you want, you can talk to a tax planner and discuss their donating the corner nearest their houses to the town for a playing field. I think tax laws will allow you to write off the cost of the land that way, and the town will then have the cost of the insurance and upkeep. But make sure to write in that the gift is conditional and ownership will revert to you if they try to sell it to a developer or build on it. Posted by user AmiTheA Niece Lifestyle. Titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to support my niece's lifestyle? So my sister and her husband were sent to prison at the start of this year, and sadly won't be released for a few years. That left me to look after their 15-year-old daughter Amy. I was perfectly happy to do this, but as most of their wealth was seized for being ill-gotten, it means that I've been having to take care of her out of my own pockets. Once again, this doesn't bother me, but it's meant massive life changes for the kid. Firstly, they sent her to a private school. I can't afford anywhere near those fees, so I had to transfer her to a local school. She was upset at this at first, but she quickly made friends and is excelling academically, so this isn't a huge problem. She's been off school for the last few months anyway due to the situation. A bigger problem is clothing. Like my sister, Amy loves fashion and designer stuff. She's still got a lot of stuff that her parents got her, but she's always on the lookout for new clothes. Unfortunately, I can't afford anywhere near the sort of stuff that she likes, and I also have 2 children of my own whose clothing I have to pay for. I've told my sister this, but she insists that I should make allowances, because her daughter is going through a tough time. Amy also really doesn't get along with my daughter Hannah, who is 11. She bullies her, calls her stupid and ugly, tells her none of her friends really like her, etc. She's made her cry on many occasions, and often continues to taunt Hannah while she cries. Yesterday, I caught Amy trying to buy a dress costing over $1,000 with my card. I was fuming and had a long conversation with her. She cried and sobbed that she just wanted one nice thing. My sister called from the prison, and Amy cried over the phone that she hates it here, and I treat her unfairly. I spoke to my sister afterwards, and she begged me to go easy on her daughter because she's still adjusting. I put food on this kid's plate. I buy her whatever clothes I can afford, even if they aren't to her taste. I take her to visit her parents as much as possible. They are held in different facilities, and I do all of that on top of working and looking after my own children. I told my sister that I was willing to look after her daughter for as long as she needs, but if anything like the card incident happens again, or if she continues to pick on my daughter, there will be serious consequences for her. My sister wanted to argue, but they get limited time on the prison phone. I think what I'm doing is right. I get that the kid is going through a tough time, and I'm doing everything I can to be there for her. But I just can't tolerate bad behavior or bullying, and I can't afford to pay for her expensive clothing. The fact that she's struggling to deal with what happened to her parents doesn't change that. And I'm on OP's side for this one as well. It's not OP's fault that this girl is having such dramatic changes in her lifestyle, and if you can't support it, you shouldn't be expected to support it. She's got 2 parents in prison for God's sake, can she not adjust? It is possible for people to adjust in this life, and as much as that would suck for you from going from a rich lifestyle to one where you're not rich anymore, you have to adjust. and the parents, it seems, are coddling this child and putting undue expectations on OP. That's not fair to OP in this situation. Do they want the kid to go into foster care? Because they're going to be even worse off in that situation. There's no winning if you continue to coddle this child. OP, not the a-hole, please help bring her back down to reality. Not the a-hole. Your sister is at a whole new level of entitlement here. Her own choices have placed Amy in this situation, and it's fallen on you to care for her. You have stepped up, and it sounds like you're doing a bang-up job. Your responsibilities are to ensure her that Amy is fed, clothed, housed, educated, and loved and supported. You're doing all those things. Your responsibilities do not extend to buying Amy designer clothing, much less a dress that costs $1,000 if you are on a budget. Amy is indeed going through a tough time, but she needs to learn a couple of tough lessons. Namely, your income can't cover the same lifestyle that her mother's ill-gotten funds did. She is not owed designer clothes, using your credit card without your permission is absolutely stealing, and is not justified by just wanting one nice thing. Good for you for role modeling some sane and reasonable values for this poor girl before she grows up to repeat all of her mother's mistakes. Posted by user Anoni Throwaway, titled, Am I the a-hole for wanting to bring the partner of my brother to his funeral? A little over a month ago, my little brother, who was 26, passed away in a motorcycle accident. His death was so sudden and hit the family very hard. I honestly still can't believe it. With the pandemic, and now this unexpected loss, we had no idea how to organize a funeral while dealing with our grief. My brother always said that he wanted to be cremated when he died, so at least we were able to honor his wish. It also made it a little easier to take our time to plan a proper service for him without worrying about his body. The week my brother passed, I drove to his apartment to pick up some stuff and met his roommate, I'll call him M, who my sister already told the news. Only I came to find out M was more than that. He was my brother's boyfriend of 5 years. He was so heartbroken and upset, he didn't even try to hide the fact that they were a couple. While I was a bit surprised, I had my suspicion growing up that he might like guys, but I never said anything. Being his older brother and all, I figured that he'd come to me when he was ready. I wound up staying for hours talking to M about my brother and going through photos. Since then, I kept contact with him to see how he's coping, and I started visiting a lot just so that we both had someone to talk to. He's a great guy, and I'm really happy my brother found someone like him to spend his years with. Having these talks with M have also made me feel a lot closer to my brother again. My brother distanced himself from our family at 18 and didn't keep much contact with anyone, even me, despite us being as close as two brothers can be, which, looking back now, I guess I can see why. My family was finally able to organize a proper funeral service for my brother. The service is scheduled for this Friday. We're still limited on how many people can be there, so only close family will be attending, and it'll be live streamed for everyone else. I really think M should be at the funeral. He just lost the love of his life, and he really wants to be there too. We decided to tell my parents he's a really close friend of my brother's. My sister, who apparently knew about them, flipped when she found out. She told me to not bring M because our parents will question who he is, and it might expose the truth about my brother being gay, since they never met him before. We all argued over this, and she pretty much thinks I'd be an a-hole for letting M possibly face ridicule from our family if they found out who he was, because, they're all closed-minded. And I'm also a terrible son if I upset my parents over my brother being gay while they're still grieving him. This is all if they find out. I don't know if they will, but it still doesn't seem fair to not let M be there when he was such an important person in my brother's life. I feel like it's only right to bring him, but maybe I'm letting my emotions get the best of me, and maybe someone with a different perspective can tell me. I think I would be very upset if my partner died, and I wasn't allowed to be at his funeral because some people are upset about my sexuality, and They would rather never learn about me being the brother's partner than have me at the funeral. That's honestly a heartbreaking reality, and I imagine it's a reality for a lot of people, and I wish it wasn't a reality. But I think it's only right to bring him to the funeral. I think he needs that closure. I think he needs to grieve. I think it's disgusting that anyone would ever consider keeping him from the funeral. Not the a-hole. Update. Thank you so much to everyone for your support and ensuring me that we're doing the right thing here. I know I won't be able to reply to every single comment, so just wanted to express my gratitude. Also, I did want to say, since people keep telling me to warn M about my family, he is aware about how they are, since my brother told him all about them and knows what he might be dealing with if anyone finds out. He still made the choice to be there and prefers being introduced as only my brother's best friend. Not because of my family's homophobic views, but because he wants peace for himself at the funeral. If anyone does find out though, he won't be alone. I'll be standing by his side, so anybody wanting to cause problems will be dealing with me. So please don't worry, I won't let anyone ruin his last chance for us to say goodbye to my dear baby brother. In a perfect world, your sister's concerns wouldn't matter, but it's not a perfect world. To me, if M knows the risks and is willing to come anyway, let him. Maybe your parents will surprise you and be happy that your brother found someone so wonderful. Not the a-hole, by the way. And OP says, I highly doubt it. They're not the most open-minded people when it comes to the LGBT community. M is aware of the risks and knows how my family is. I really don't think there's a possibility he'll be outed somehow, but my sister seems to think so. M should be there, and as your brother's long-term partner, I think M can make the right choice about whether to present himself as the partner or the friend. He shouldn't have to closet himself at his partner's funeral for the sake of your estranged parents. But whatever M decides, he should be there. So sorry for your loss. Updates. Am I the a-hole for wanting to bring the partner of my brother to his funeral? M went to the funeral, and I introduced him to everyone as my brother's roommate and best friend. My sister was visibly bothered, but she didn't say anything. As expected, everyone, including my parents, were too upset to think about him being there, and were still very welcoming towards him. They didn't speculate or react the way my sister thought they would, and I knew they wouldn't. We were all focused on my brother. It was a beautiful service. I'm glad M was a part of this, and that my brother got a proper send-off. It was very difficult, and it hurt so much to say goodbye. I really hope we did right by my brother, and it was how he would have wanted it. Thank you to whoever suggested an urn necklace that M could keep some of my brother's ashes in. I brought this up to him and asked if that was something that he wanted. I was going to get part for myself, while my parents kept most of it, and then I would just split the ashes with M. M didn't know that was a thing, but he said that he liked the idea. He got himself a beautiful pendant to keep the ashes in, and he really loves it, so thanks again to the person who commented this. It was a lovely suggestion, and it means so much to him to have a piece of my brother with him at all times. I still have kept contact with M since the funeral. He's stopped by a couple of times, and has finally met my wife and daughter. I also try to see him when I have the chance, just to make sure he's okay. This has understandably taken a huge toll on him. He's told me he started talking to someone to help cope with the grief, which I think is great. I myself had a bit of a wake-up call that therapy was something I very much needed right away. My wife brought it to my attention that our 5-year-old has noticed that I've stopped eating, and now she doesn't want to eat either unless I do. I don't know, I guess I haven't been able to eat because I feel like I don't deserve it, if that makes any sense. It hit me that what I'm going through was starting to affect my family, so I'm currently looking up grief counseling in my area. I've also made an effort to eat more in front of my daughter, so she knows that I'm fine and it's okay to eat, hiding the fact that it still makes me sick to my stomach. Things are still rough and wounds are yet to heal, but we're all surviving. Thank you everyone for all your kindness and support. It was very reassuring to know that this was the right thing and M deserved to be there. Thinking back now, it should have been a no-brainer, but emotions were high, and it was better to get an outsider's perspective. I appreciate everyone's input, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bless you for accepting M with open arms, an open heart and mind. You are a wonderful person for accepting your brother's partner without questions or judgment, and giving him a safe place to express his grief and sorrow. Bless your soul for acknowledging your own sorrow as affecting your child. You are a strong, caring individual for accepting that you are not handling your sorrow well, and that you need assistance processing and healing. My heart goes out to you. I am so terribly sorry for your loss. You have a lot of healing to do. But it seems that you have a great support system. Your brother's partner will need support as well, and it seems like you are doing an amazing job at stepping in and stepping up. I do believe that you two developing a friendship may help in the healing process. Take care, darling, and may your brother's soul be at rest, and may your hearts be at peace. And OP says, thank you so much for your kind words. They mean a lot. I'm beyond grateful M and I have become close friends. It's helped immensely and has made me feel so much closer to my brother than I have in years. Posted by user Cucumber Connoisseur, titled, Am I the a-hole for eating too many cucumbers? This is perhaps the most bizarre Am I the a-hole post I have ever written, but I'm honestly so confused. I feel like I can't possibly be the a-hole, but then sometimes people are too blind to see their own flaws, so maybe I really am. For as long as I can remember, I've had this quirk, I guess you could call, that I never snack on anything other than cucumber. I shouldn't say never, technically, since socially I'll get ice cream or eat a few chips at a party. Like, I'm not a picky eater by any means, but my snack of choice has always been cucumbers. I eat pretty healthily anyways, so a lot of fruits and veggies are a part of my diet. Since veggies are lower in calories, I have to eat a lot of them to eat enough. So I'll usually have some sliced cucumber in my purse that I munch on throughout the day, and I'll always have a cucumber in my car that I just eat whole when I'm driving. I go through several cucumbers daily. Although it's not healthy, I've had days where I've felt really depressed and overwhelmed and have binge-eaten nothing but cucumber. I think I've eaten perhaps 35 on very extreme days. Recently, this quirk has begun to drive my 22 female boyfriend, 33 male, of 6 months insane. His words, not mine. He says it's highly inappropriate to carry them everywhere with me. We spent last weekend at his parents' lake house, and I provided my own cucumber to snack on. One night before bed, I was in my room, gnawing on a cucumber like a savage, when his mother walked in. Under normal circumstances, I never would eat that around others. I'd slice it up. She was puzzled, but chuckled and said, "Oh my, you do like cucumber?" My boyfriend later told me that I humiliated him with my childish and immature eating habits. I told him that his mum caught me in a low moment. He was being ridiculous since he eats a bag of chips every day and I don't bat an eye. He told me that chips were a normal snack and whole cucumbers were deranged. He told me I needed to stop eating cucumbers and that my behavior was a deal breaker for him. I feel really bothered, but I think cucumbers are a weird hill to die on, and I don't want to lose my relationship. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. I'd just like to add that my boyfriend has never expressed any issue with my cucumber habits before now. The incident in question was because around 8 p.m. I was getting really hungry, and I don't know his family super well, so I didn't want to go rummaging and ask for a snack, and I didn't want to bother them by asking for a cutting board or something to cut up my cucumber because of, well, mild social anxiety. So I shut myself in the guest room and figured I'd just snack on a cucumber quick. I don't usually go and hide and eat cucumbers, okay? But then his mum walked in looking for my boyfriend, presumably, and was a little surprised, but seemed amused and not upset or anything. I honestly didn't think it'd turn into such a big deal for him. I'm just gonna go out of the gates here and say, not the a-hole. I mean, it's a bit peculiar that all you ever eat for a snack is cucumbers, but there's worse things in this universe. People just sculling tomato sauce. that show my weird habits or whatever it is. Like that one woman that just eats couch cushion. That genuinely makes my head spin. I don't understand it. I feel like cucumber is a nice, sane habit to be having. Them judging you for that is really odd. I can see why they think it's so weird, but I don't think it's a deal breaker. Cucumber's nice. It's a healthy snack. Literally nothing wrong with that in my books. It's a bit odd that she just walked in on you like that, but it is what it is. I don't think you're an a-hole in this situation. Not the a-hole. Dump your boyfriend and enjoy your cucumbers. Note, I personally find cucumbers disgusting, and it would still never occur to me to care about this. I mean, it's not unusual, but people have quirks, and if he's controlling about cucumbers, didn't think that'd be a sentence I'd write, find a man with bigger concerns in his life. This isn't a quirk, it's disordered eating. The boyfriend may be an a-hole, but this is by no means a quirk or even remotely normal. She does have a problem. I would be concerned about this too, although probably not because my mum saw her eat it. What exactly is her problem? How is it disordered? I understand that nothing but 35 cucumbers in a day is definitely a problem, but that sounded less like a pattern and more like a one-off instance caused at least in part by depression. I'm genuinely curious. Am I missing something here? Yeah. Disordered eating can come in many forms, and being so fixated on one food in a way that's clearly interfering with her life to the point that she has to hide her obsession is a pretty big sign. This isn't quite the same thing, but for reference, there is an eating disorder centered around being obsessed with healthy eating called orthorexia, that most people wouldn't realize is a problem. Not the a-hole. I, 22 female, and my boyfriend, 33 male, was enough for me to be on guard, and the rest of the story confirms it. It's rich that he called you childish when he's dating someone so young. I know, right? And OP, I devour whole cucumbers all the time, and bits and all. I love them as well. Don't feel bad about eating cucumbers, and I doubt his mother made that remark to put you down. To me, it sounded more like an observation, an attempt to make a little small talk. He is the one with the problem, not you. Updates. Am I the a-hole for eating too many cucumbers? I didn't expect my first post to really get any attention, so I would like to thank you all for taking the time to read it and giving your judgment. To those of you who expressed concern for my cucumber addiction and that I have an eating disorder, I can assure you that I am perfectly healthy. I wouldn't consider myself addicted, nor do I have an eating disorder at all. I just really enjoy my cucumbers. I can go days without eating them. I don't need my cucumber fix. It's just that if I'm going to snack, I'd prefer to eat a cuke. It's a really weird name for them, but okay. I would consider the amount I snack on cucumbers proportional to the amount my boyfriend or any normal person would snack on chips or other junk food. I just occasionally eat more since they are so low in calories. Additionally, I have had a few cucumber binges. I am well aware that those are not healthy, just like binging on junk food isn't healthy. But that's extremely uncommon for me, and for the most part, I eat a well-balanced and healthy diet. However, I will talk to my doctor about it to ensure that it is not worrying. As for my boyfriend, we ended up calling it quits. I was pretty hurt at first, but I think perhaps his huge reaction to cucumbers was indeed a red flag for controlling behavior. I think that he was trying to call my bluff, expecting me to give up my cukes for him, so the breakup took him a bit by surprise too. How it went down was that I told him we needed to have a chat. I told him that it was unacceptable to tell me what I was allowed to eat. I added that if listening to me chow down on cucumbers was what bothered him, as some of you in the comments noted, I would avoid eating them when he was around. Apparently, the very idea of me eating so many cucumbers was driving him nuts and not the noise. I decided to try and compromise. He was a pretty heavy drinker and will get drunk pretty often. I know that it's very bad for his health, and I have expressed that concern in the past. I told him that I'd give up cucumbers if he gave up alcohol. He declined my offer, threw out a few uncreative insults and expletives, and I am now writing this from my mum's couch with a cucumber in my hand and a cucumber in my heart. I'm still unclear on why the cucumbers were such an issue, why I could never eat them again, why me suggesting he give up alcohol was such a big deal, among other things. But I guess I'll never know now. Edit. Thank you so much for the awards, I'm so honored, and I'm really glad to know those are hugs. I always thought they were judgmental Ewoks. Edit 2. I seem to have forgotten to add this, as it was a common question on the original post, and I'm seeing it in the comments now. No, I did not eat 35 of those mammoth cucumbers. My eating habits may be odd, but I'm not completely insane. I think on my last cucumber binge, which occurs super rarely, and it was quite a while ago, I had maybe 3 or 4 big ones, and the rest were mini cukes. I do buy a lot of them at the grocery store, but I have a cucumber dealer who hooks me up with huge batches. And for those of you upset at my use of the word cuke, here you go. May your lives be enriched. And that link is to the YouTube episode of VeggieTales Minnesota Cuke and the Search for Noah's Umbrella. Very interesting, that is. Very interesting. Edit 3. Just for some clarification for those who think my boyfriend is completely justified in his cucumber hate and that I'm a lunatic, I agree. Sort of. If he had been bothered by the chewing or concerned about my health, I was ready to talk about it and work something out. I didn't enter into the discussion for a fight or with the intention of breaking up. His attempted grasp for control over my food wasn't even the reason why I broke up with him. But when he started shouting at me and called me a tramp, which he had never done before, I decided to end things. Imagine being dumped by your girl because she'd rather eat cucumbers than be with you. I know that's not actually the reason, but the thought had me howling. And OP says, yeah, he was pretty ticked. You can take the cucumbers away from the girl, but you can't take the girl away from the cucumbers. Just gotta say, after reading your original post and update, I thought, a nice fresh cucumber sounds pretty good right now. Went to my fridge and now typing this while munching on a cold, crisp cuke. That's absolutely fantastic. Good to know I wasn't the only one who read the first post and said, damn, I don't usually eat cucumbers by themselves, but that actually sounds kinda good right now. Then for dinner I made a tomato and cucumber salad with balsamic vinaigrette, and it was delicious. I do tomato cucumber tossed with some feta cheese, olive oil with sea salt and pepper. Stopping at the store on my way home. I could go for some of that right now, not gonna lie. Posted by user Am I the A-hole Proposal 123. Titled, Am I the A-hole for accepting an engagement? Last week, my 25 female sister, 27 female, got married. I went with my boyfriend, 25 male, of 5 years. The reception was going great. Everyone was having a good time, and then I turned around and saw my boyfriend kneeling. He pulled out a diamond ring and asked me to marry him. I said yes because I love him and I want to marry him. We got some congratulations, and then the party continued. It didn't seem like it disrupted very much, and it was after the actual ceremony. A week has passed, and my sister is really mad at me for accepting the engagement at her party. I know my boyfriend probably shouldn't have done it at the wedding, but it didn't disrupt it that much. He was dropping hints for the past few weeks, so I assumed it was coming soon. But I didn't know it would be at the wedding, obviously, or I would have told him to wait. As I see it, it's not my fault. I wasn't the one who decided to propose, but I do want to marry him, and I had to say yes or no. So for me, it was a clear yes. But my sister has blocked me, and my family is texting me angrily. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Not my boyfriend, I'm asking for me. Well, I think both of you suck, sorry. Proposing at a wedding, if you've not asked permission, is completely a no-go, and even if you're put on the spot, I feel like you say no, and you say we'll talk about this later, as much as that breaks your husband's heart. It's honestly like a cardinal sin in my book. You just do not do it. You do not steal the thunder at someone else's wedding. even if it is after the ceremony. As much as it sucks, as much as you don't want to do it, I feel like you have to say no, we'll do this proposal later. You've made an embarrassment of the both of us and I'm sorry. You do such a disservice to your family when you accept that proposal. As hard as that is, I understand it's hard. So you're the a-hole for this one, OP. You're the a-hole. Yes, you were put in an awkward position, and your boyfriend is the real a-hole here, but you're the a-hole for playing it down as though it was nothing, when in fact, it's not cool at all to get engaged at someone else's wedding reception. 100% this. An apology could go a long way here. OP is technically right that she didn't propose, but it's not the hill to die on. Boyfriend should apologize too. You're the a-hole? I was gonna say not the a-hole, but you've agreed to marry a classless a-hole, so it definitely calls your character into question, and your dismissive attitude towards your sister just rubs me wrong. I hope she announces her pregnancy at your wedding. Man, I'd feel some kind of way about it if my husband used someone else's special occasion for his proposal. It just seems so fudging lazy, like you weren't even worth the effort. My thoughts exactly. You're the a-hole, OP. When you saw him kneeling there, you should have said something to him then, especially since it seems like you were expecting a proposal soon anyway. Instead of making it special for you, he took the joy away from both you and your sister. Now this is the memory you'll both get to live with. Hope that it was worth it. Everyone sucks here. Your boyfriend is the huge, rude, insensitive a-hole. You know it, we all know it. But instead of telling him to apologize to your sister, and you apologizing as well, you were acting dismissive of her anger towards the proposal as a whole. Yup. Plus, OP could have shut him down. It's not hard to say, don't do this here. I mean, at that point, that would make a bigger scene. I don't see how OP could have avoided it, but her fiancé needs to apologize. Right? It's still a scene, but walking away and pulling him out of the room is at least a don't ruin my sister's wedding scene, which would make her not the a-hole, especially with a big my boyfriend is a moron type apology. Instead, OP went with, gosh, this is not okay, but yes, followed by a what's the big deal apology. Posted by user DoorDear3, titled, Am I the a-hole for ruining my wife's birthday trip by insisting either our son comes or no one goes? Long story, but I'll keep this brief. My wife's birthday was 2 weekends ago. We had planned to go on a long camping trip of 6 days, and everything was all set and paid for. Roughly 3 days before departing, my wife got into a huge fight with our 12-year-old son. They have been getting into small arguments and butting heads more and more, but nothing like this. Apparently, he was playing Minecraft on her laptop and downloaded something that crashed the computer. Nothing too terrible, but my wife was worried her computer was permanently broken. So there was a pretty easy solution to everything. Go to a repair shop. But like always, it devolved into a massive fight between them because our son was adamant he didn't do anything wrong, and my wife was adamant he did. It eventually got so bad, my wife threatened to send him to stay with our neighbor by himself while we went on our trip if he doesn't confess. He says fine, leave without me. So, my wife made up her mind to actually leave him with the neighbor for 6 days while we go on our trip. I tried to mediate, but it's the night before, and my wife is still set on dropping him off at the neighbor's. He's also upset, and has packed his stuff in preparation. At this point, I basically put my foot down and said there's no way in hell we're actually doing this. This is insane, we're a family, and if we can't go together we shouldn't go at all. Long story and lots of drama short, the trip was cancelled. My wife refused to let our son come along, and I refused to leave him behind. As a result, she's accused me of ruining the 1 week this year she's been excited for. I don't know if I did the right thing in the end. Edit, to everyone asking about how the laptop broke, it's a really old computer, and my wife accidentally spilled orange juice over it roughly a year ago when the problem started. The computer honestly crashes all the time, and I've got no doubt my son's games overtaxed it and crashed it again, but I don't think his games were to blame for the problems starting. Edit 2. My son did have permission to play games and download specific mods related to the game, limited to a site that we trust, without our knowing. So he didn't really break any rules by playing the game or downloading, but the laptop was in incredibly poor shape, and what used to be fine no longer was. My wife just seemed to forget about all the other times the laptop crashed and pinned every problem on this one instance. I want to say everyone sucks here in this situation, because this husband has done nothing to calm this wife down. It seems like he's been sitting on the sidelines this entire time. He would not be the a-hole if he mediated this from the start, instead of waiting it out and seeing if the problem fixes itself. I feel like you gotta have more self-awareness in these situations and be like, you know what? Maybe the worst thing could happen in this situation, and I should preemptively put the fire out. I should tell the wife, hey, you've messed up this computer, you've spilled orange juice on it. He's a kid, he's 12 years old, he likes to play games. Computers crash all the time, yours has been crashing all the time. You can't give sole blame to this kid. He's young, they all make mistakes, especially 12-year-olds. It's not fair that you attack him like this. Your wife is a huge a-hole for doing what she did, and I don't know, that's a really strained relationship and I hope you do fix it. So everyone sucks here because of that. Everyone sucks here. Going to a repair shop may be an easy solution to the problem of the broken computer, but it doesn't resolve the issue of your son downloading something he shouldn't have, and, edit potentially, lying about it. I think excluding him from the trip was an overreaction, but I also think you failed to have your wife's back in what was partly a disciplinary issue. You say, like always, it devolved into a massive fight. If this is the norm, your family needs therapy. I don't mean that flippantly. You need to find better ways to resolve problems. If your son's now 12, it's not going to get any easier as he enters the teen years. And OP says, to be clear, I absolutely did have her back in the beginning. I agreed that his games did crash the computer, but she took it to another level and wanted him to confess to breaking it permanently. The point I stopped backing her was when she wanted our son to confess to breaking the computer with his games, because that's just not the case. I told him to stop playing Minecraft on her laptop, but she wanted him to take responsibility for it going to crap in the first place. That's why the fight got so bad, and why I stopped defending her quickly after that. I think you needed to defend your son. Yes, your wife is your partner, and you should parent from a united front. However, she overreacted. When she took the camping trip away, she went too far. Then she doubled down with you saying your son stays or no one goes. That's all kinds of unreasonable. She put you in the judge, jury, and executioner position. A punishment or some corrective action was due to the son, no computers for a month, take his cell, mow the lawn every day, etc., but not allowing him to go on a family trip would have set such a negative dynamic in motion within your family that you would be years coming back from it, if ever. Not the a-hole OP, but some family counseling is in order. And that's all kinds of unreasonable, especially due to his age. He's obviously not an extremely young child, so he's at an age where he's got to be taking responsibility for his actions, but still, deliberately excluding someone who's not hit his teen years from a family holiday seems extreme, and quite immature and counterproductive. Excluding him in that way is hardly going to improve the family dynamic. Going for a couple's weekend to get away from the responsibilities of parenthood is one thing, and probably needed for most families to relax for a bit, but parenthood is still a commitment, and you can't just cut out your kids when they annoy you. Posted by user like Lysy, titled, Am I the a-hole for walking out of an intervention, quote unquote? I might be a little righteous, but I hate cheaters. I just lose all respect once I know someone had an affair. My father-in-law left mother-in-law for his 20-something year younger mistress 4 years ago, and as a result, he has limited time with his kids. I want to raise good people, and I just don't trust his judgment. My mother-in-law and I have a complicated relationship, but I do let her see the kids whenever she wants. She's a great grandma, though I've been avoiding her since she sued us. My mother-in-law texted the other day that she wanted to go to lunch and talk. I was open to it because honestly she was in the right, and we did owe her money. I wish she didn't take us to court, but it is what it is. When I got there, father-in-law and his wife were there. Mother-in-law started berating me for being righteous and tearing the family apart and depriving father-in-law of his son and grandchildren. She said I have no idea what happened or that she cheated first and broke his heart. Then she kissed his wife on the lips. It was non-sexual, but still, what the hell? And said, see, I accept her, so you should too. Father-in-law started demanding for me to admit that they were right, and I didn't know what to say, so I just walked out. Dear husband says I should have at least explained myself and had an open conversation. I kind of had to read back over that and understand just what the hell is going on. Why is the mother-in-law kissing the father-in-law's wife on the lips? How is it non-sexual? What? What is going on? Okay, that's just a whole bunch of information that was opened up there. I guess it makes this an everyone sucks here situation, but only in this moment. I'd say not the a-hole beforehand, because they didn't have this knowledge, seemingly, or we didn't know that they had this knowledge. So if they were cool with it the whole time, yeah, there's no reason to be keeping the kids from the father-in-law, but at the same time, they're not entitled to see the kids. You're not entitled to see them, and OP doesn't trust your judgment. They don't trust you as a person. They shouldn't have to, and they shouldn't have to be pressured by you. The mother-in-law is a terrible person if she cheated on the father-in-law first. It doesn't excuse cheating on the father-in-law as a result of that. And why the hell is mother-in-law taking OP to court? Who the hell knows? I don't have an answer for this one. I'm very confused. This story had too many twists and turns. Everyone sucks here. There's a dumpster fire going on while OP is trying to defend their kid, and they don't know what to do, and it turned out they sucked here, but I want to say not the a-hole, but I feel like I'm wrong if I say that, so everyone sucks here, OP. Everyone sucks here. If someone ambushes you, you owe them nothing. Mother-in-law should have written you a letter or email explaining the circumstances. Not that she owed you any, but if she wanted to advocate for your father-in-law so she could see his grandkids, that was the way to go. And why is cheating worse than refusing to pay money back? Both are bad, but you are depriving your father-in-law time with his grandkids as punishment, but you don't see taking money and not paying back as a similarly bad thing. You seem very judgmental for someone who is to be sued into doing the right thing. As long as your father-in-law has treated your kids well in the past, you should let him see his grandkids. OP is entitled to limiting her children's contact with bad role models. She herself is a bad role model and a hypocrite. OP sounds like she also feels entitled to telling a story with very limited details. I've read this 3 times, and I still feel like I have no idea what's going on. Right? I read it once, and I'm not even going to bother. There's no facts here. There's just a story. I wouldn't be surprised if something was made up. The last 2 paragraphs didn't even make much sense to me. Posted by user Turs, titled, Am I the a-hole for cutting my daughter off because I think she ruined her own career? My daughter, 26 female, was a PhD student at a university. She got a stipend, but I still helped her pay rent so she could get a better apartment and buy better clothes. However, in July, she starts telling her father and I that her advisor keeps saying that he really likes her. Her father and I both know our daughter is the type to get rather neurotically distressed when there's disturbance of any sort in her life. So we tell her that if he's just relaying his feelings, she should focus on her work, and that it's better than her advisor hating her. Then comes August, and she's complaining that he keeps setting meeting times late after hours, and that after she filed a complaint, her life there has been a living hell. She then said she was done and wanted to leave the university. Her dad and I are furious because she essentially encountered feelings from a coworker, which might happen in every professional environment. And instead of dealing with it person to person like a grown-up, she goes straight to administrative figures. Now all the effort we invested in her graduate education is down the drain, and she is saying that her advisor will probably badmouth her to potential employers, since her employment opportunities are in the research fields. And it's a shame, because previously she had been doing better than her peers and getting ahead, but then she goes and decides to shake things up with her advisor. As a result, we told her that since she made the decision to torpedo her reputation and career, what she does here on out is up to her. My husband and I will no longer be sending her money for her rent or any other expense. Am I the a-hole? She essentially antagonized a guy who could have helped her advance in her career. And obviously, university administration agrees, since they didn't take any action against said advisor. My other daughter, 23, also had a guy at work take a liking to her, and instead of trying to get him fired, he was actually able to help her get ahead. I don't like the reasoning that the parents are taking for this one. If it was me, I'd take it up to the administration as well. I see absolutely nothing wrong with doing what she's doing. These parents just have a scrotum lodged into their brain, it looks like. This is some next level barbaric thinking to really be blaming this on the daughter. Oh, it's your fault that you got kicked out. You could have just done this person to person. Obviously, the parents don't know what this guy was like. Maybe he's a dangerous type that was, destroying every opportunity that she had. Her life has become hell since she reported him. Does that not raise red flags about the kind of person that this guy is? Talk about putting your daughter in a disgusting spot all by yourself. I feel like these two have failed as parents, and they are definitely the a-hole in this situation. You're the a-hole, your daughter is the victim of sexual harassment, and you're mad at her for not using it to her professional advantage? If you know anything about the way HR works at institutions with these kind of complaints, you should know that no action by administrators doesn't mean that nothing happened, just that there wasn't enough evidence. You should be supporting your daughter through an incredibly tough time right now, rather than cutting her off financially. I hope this is fake, and you are not this terrible of a parent. Also, if it's her advisor, it's not she essentially encountered feelings from a coworker, as you so charmingly put it. As a PhD student, her advisor is far more than that, and has significant power over her education and career. You are a horrible person and parent for this. You're angry that she didn't, leverage the sexual harassment from her boss and mentor into more opportunity? You sound like the type to think that a man following her at night is just a compliment that she should use to get something. I hope she takes the cue from you cutting her off financially and decides to go no contact with you both completely. She essentially antagonized a guy who could have helped her advance in her career. You might as well have followed your thought to its logical conclusion, and we're really disappointed she opted not to prostitute herself in service of her career. To you and your spouse, you're the a-hole. Your daughter's advisor is not a colleague, but someone in authority over her who has the ability to ruin her career, with all the attending implications that her failure to receive his advances might threaten her future. The advisor's actions are textbook harassment. Your daughter has the right to report and not tolerate his behavior. Supervisors have horrifying amounts of power over graduate students. They have to sign off on funding, job prospects, ability to go to conferences, access to lab resources, even your ability to get a degree on time. Them just not liking you can make it impossible to progress in your field. The moment he made the relationship unprofessional, she was completely screwed. If she hadn't reported it and just quietly tried to ignore it, he'd likely have started sabotaging her in a way that was completely deniable. My supervisor literally decided if I was going to graduate or not. I was walking on eggshells and completely miserable because of how I was treated. I can't even imagine how much worse it would be if I was being sexually harassed. You're the a-hole. Posted by user M2Ghost, titled, Am I the a-hole for not showing up to pick up my stepdaughter at school one time after she made me wait countless times? Obligatory disclaimer, this happened about a year ago. So this is an ongoing issue that has driven me and my husband apart, and I'm worried may threaten our marriage down the road. Looking for some unbiased responses. I have a teenage stepdaughter, 13, from my husband. She's been living with us for 3 years now, and there's still growing pains. She doesn't trust me fully, and continues to act out against my authority in any and all forms. So last year, around this time, my husband was overseas attending to his uncle's funeral and managing family affairs. It was just me and stepdaughter for about 3 weeks, with me cooking, cleaning, driving her around. I was supposed to pick her up from school at 3 p.m. every day. Given the schedule, it would mean leaving the home around 2:30 and not getting back until around 3:30 to 4. I'm a freelancer, so while my schedule is flexible, I don't have endless free time. In the first week, she was constantly late. Like, I'd wait an hour, and she wouldn't show up until 3:45. I was furious, and told her so, but she would roll her eyes at me. Anyways, I was fed up and just decided to leave her there for a bit one day and let her sweat. I just didn't turn up. I waited until around 7 to 8 p.m. and then called her mobile phone, expecting to hear her apologetic. No response. I called the school and they say they saw her walk home at around 3:30 p.m. At this point, I'm worried and I start calling neighbors and the local authorities. After hours of calling and searching, we find her in a random backyard in another neighborhood. She tried taking shortcuts home through people's backyards, but got bit by someone's unleashed dog. Her leg was bleeding, but nothing broken, so she just sat down and cried once her phone died. Long story short, when my husband woke up that day, he was furious at me and called me all sorts of names. He flew back that night and we had a big fight over it. Ever since then, we've had family therapy, but my stepdaughter openly resents me and blames me for her scarred-up leg. My husband thinks the blame falls solely on me as well, and refuses to hear out my complaints about her. I just feel unheard and frustrated, and yes, things had spun out of control, but I still feel like I tried to do the right thing. You know what, OP? You tried to teach her a lesson, and she got herself into someone's backyard and got attacked by a dog. Your plan backfired, you're the a-hole for putting her in that spot, even though it was unintentional. I mean, there is a lot of blame to throw around here. What the hell was she doing, skipping through people's backyards? That's just stupid, but she's young and I don't blame her. So what I'm trying to say, it's not completely your fault she got attacked by a dog, but you put her in a situation where she could have been kidnapped, she could have been taken, who knows what's going to happen to this kid. It really sucks that this happened because of you not being there to pick her up. As much as waiting an hour every day at school sucks, it's what you have to do sometimes. You have to protect the kid. It sucks, you know, we can find solutions. You can just run into that school and drag her out if you want, but abandoning her is not the answer, so you're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. I waited until around 7 p.m. You're the adult. That is more than letting her sweat. That could make someone freak out. Of course she wouldn't wait for you for 4 hours. Does that justify her behavior? No. She's clearly got issues, but she's 13. Your husband should be listening to you more because it's clear what she's doing is disrespecting you completely, so you need to be a united front. But regarding this specific thing you're mentioning, you're the a-hole. Yes. If she's consistently showing up at 3:45 to 4, and that's when OP arrived, I would have totally said not the a-hole. The really over-the-top thing, though, is that she also did not even bother to call her for 4 hours. Leaving her standing there for 4 hours is insane. The kid should have told the school that there was nobody to pick her up, and she could not reach the person supposedly in charge of her. Evil stepmother might have gotten a nice educational visit from CPS. I hope the daughter does get the school involved if it happens again. That's what I said. I work at a school, and if we had a child still there when we were leaving, and we couldn't get a hold of their parents or guardians, the next call would have been to the police and CPS. A 13-year-old can leave school without someone to collect them. She walked out to walk home. The school isn't at fault here. Exactly. You're the a-hole. What you did was put a child in an unsafe situation purposely as retaliation. You are all lucky nothing worse happened to her. It is reasonable to be upset when a child doesn't respect your time, but you are still required to act from a place of love when punishing them. This means you must communicate using words. I would have divorced you honestly. Such casual disregard for a child's well-being just for petty revenge? Your way of dealing with this conflict is immature. Grow up, accept responsibility, and allow them the space to be angry and disappointed with you. Stop defending yourself. And ask yourself if you can really love this child and commit to acting with love no matter how upset you are. If you can't, you need to leave. Edit to add, you lost your right to complain about her behavior when you did this. Therapy right now needs to be about you hearing the ways you have betrayed their trust and trying to find ways to rebuild it. Drop your complaints, listen, apologize, try to make amends and rebuild trust. You are not well placed to be an arbiter of good behavior and need to drop all criticism of her in therapy. Get yourself in order, lead by example, and let your husband handle all correction for now. Posted by user ExpressMuffin4504, titled, Am I the a-hole for saying I was glad my brother is dying? Long story short, my brother slept with my ex-fiancée. Thankfully no children were involved, so there were no obligations, but I never forgave him since I have massive trust issues that have affected every subsequent relationship. Now I just don't date, and honestly, I don't really blame women for not wanting to date my insecure ass, since I wouldn't either. I cut off contact with him and tried to make everyone else in my family do it too, and they agreed. I also destroyed any family photos on the internet and off the internet, so it was like he never existed at all. I got a call from his lawyer, and he said that he was diagnosed with terminal cancer and that he was dying and would like to make amends with everyone that he hurt, especially me. I told the lawyer I'm glad he was dying and he will live with the crappy thing he did for the rest of his life, and that I'll never forgive him since he ruined my life. The lawyer gave me the details anyway, like I'm going to go, and advised that I should consider seeing him anyway. After this interaction, I told everyone what had happened, since I thought they had the right to know, and they asked me if I would see him, and I said no, and that I'm happy that he is dying. My mother shouted at me, saying that I'm a bitter a-hole, and that I need to get over it, and he has probably changed, and that I was being unfair. My sister said similar things to me, but I don't think he deserves closure, and the only way I'd go is to let him know that he isn't forgiven, and they got angrier, and said that I was an a-hole and hung up. Honestly, the thought of seeing him angers me, so I don't think I did anything wrong. Am I the a-hole? This is probably one of the hardest ones to comment on that I've seen before, because, logically everyone would think, he did do you wrong, but he's dying, so we got to give him that final send-off if you would like. But at the same time, everyone's different. Everyone processes things differently, and I'm not one to judge you for choosing one way or another. Especially when it's something of this degree. I mean, he just destroyed your relationship there, just completely broke down what you had built up there. And it's, in your mind, it's written off relationships anytime in the future. I understand where this anger is coming from, and I understand if you don't want to make amends and you just want to let them die. That's really grim, but it still makes you an a-hole regardless of whether it's justified or not. Your brother is an a-hole for doing that to you. I'm not sure if there's any coming back from this one in the end, but everyone sucks here in this situation. He did an incredibly crappy thing, but you're the one that ruined your life. Adding on that you need to take ownership of your own reactions and feelings. Being cheated on isn't why you haven't dated successfully. You should see a therapist. He's decided not to date because of his insecurities due to this. You're just making a personal attack to make him feel bad for not dating. Why is he obligated if he's not ready? Telling someone to seek therapy and that they need to own their own actions and feelings isn't a personal attack, and thinking that it is, or that it's motivation for someone to feel bad, is telling. You're the a-hole. There is never a reason to tell a mother that you are glad her child is dying. It doesn't matter what he did, that is beyond cruel. The fact that you would do that to your own mother is absolutely disgusting. If you don't want to see him, you don't have to. If you don't want to forgive him, you don't have to. But he didn't ruin your life. You were doing that on your own by letting hate eat you up. It's like the old saying, you drink poison and expect the other person to die. OP's hate only harmed himself. What his brother did was crappy, but at some point one must pick up the pieces and move on with life, because life is too damn short to spend it hating. Isn't his brother dying though? He's actually happy that he's dying. Your quote literally doesn't apply. OP is drinking the poison. After his brother is dead, OP will still hate him and still not move on. He says he's happy, but no, he won't be. Yup, brother and his feelings won't exist much longer, but OP is going to carry that crap for his life if he keeps it up. The hate will still be there. It'll transfer to something else. Seems like it's already moving to OP himself. He's already shaking himself for the feeling he has regarding the situation, despite all of them being valid. But he's holding on to them for whatever reason. It's becoming who he is, more so than an event he experienced. Posted by user Number Pitiful. Titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to take my girlfriend's pregnant friend to the hospital? Backstory is that my 28 male girlfriend's 25 female friend, 24 female, has always hated our relationship. I've been with my girlfriend for 3 years. At the beginning, her friend made it clear she did not like my guts. She would make passive-aggressive comments about me even while we were dating. Her friend would even introduce her to other guys. When we finally got together, her friend would blatantly make up things like, OP thinks you're getting bigger, or deliberately misconstrue things that I said to make them negative. I've tried to make amends with her and include her in group activities, but I've stopped trying a long time ago after she kept backstabbing me. So I do not like her friend, and I avoid her whenever I can. And while my girlfriend understands, her friend apparently was there for her in the past when her parents got divorced and whatnot, so she doesn't want to ditch her as a friend. FYI, as a disclaimer, her friend is the type of girl that dyes her hair blue and has a Twitter account that lists her gender, and is also where she gets into arguments frequently. That type of girl that most guys want to stay away from anyways. On to the topic. She got pregnant roughly 9 months ago and also ended up getting kicked out of her apartment a month ago. She was homeless, and since my girlfriend and I live together now, my girlfriend begged me to put aside my differences with her and let her stay with us for a bit. I relented because it meant a lot to my girlfriend, but I made one condition. I do not interact with her at all, to which she agreed. For the most part, I've kept out of her way, but occasionally I've heard a few snide comments about me from her friend. It's whatever. My girlfriend is out of the house from morning until 6 p.m, so she wasn't here when this happened. On Monday, her friend started screaming out for me that she thinks that she's having the baby. I told her, then call an ambulance, but her friend didn't want to pay for the ambulance cost. I told her that there is nothing I could do, and I am not driving 15 minutes to the hospital. She was crying and begging me, but I simply refused. Again, she had a phone, she could have called an ambulance. She ended up texting my girlfriend about what was happening, and my girlfriend blew up my phone asking me to take her. I told her that we agreed that her friend and I stay out of each other's way. Long story short, my girlfriend ended up coming back from work to take her to the hospital. Her friend is still at the hospital with her new son. My girlfriend got into an argument with me. I told her that I made it clear from the start that she agreed to my condition. Now people, understand, there was a lot of bad blood between me and her friend over the years, and I barely scratched the surface in my backstory. I feel like I sacrificed a lot by letting her stay with us, and I feel like that doesn't make me an a-hole, but my girlfriend says I should have made an exception, so maybe that makes me the a-hole. I think you know you're the a-hole here, OP, but you're trying to justify it as righteous hatred, and you have the right to tell her, screw you, I do what I want, I'm not listening to you. I'm not sucking it up and driving you to the hospital when you're pregnant, 'cause I hate you. Gah. This whole thing just oozes of toxicity on your half. I know she's a terrible person, but come on. Even if I hated someone, I'd still drive them to the hospital if they're pregnant and having the baby. Those ambulance costs are damn expensive. I've seen those. Dear Lord, how do you guys afford that? So, unfortunately, this makes you the a-hole OP. You're the a-hole. Dude, come on. Whatever your grievances with her, the baby did nothing to deserve you letting your grudge potentially affect its well-being. Besides, if you really have that much of a problem with her presence, it's past time for you to put your foot down with your girlfriend and insist she make other arrangements. You don't get to agree to help her out and then not actually help. I'm with you until your last sentence. OP didn't agree to help her with medical or pregnancy needs. OP agreed to help her by allowing her to live in OP's home instead of her being homeless, and OP did so. That doesn't give OP extra obligations to help with anything needed. Pregnant people are perfectly capable, and it's weird she didn't have a plan for how going into labor and getting to the hospital would work for her. That said, as you said, it is an a-hole move to not assist a pregnant woman roommate get to the hospital. Edit to add, not sure whether I need to clarify or not, but my entire point was agreeing to help a person with one thing does not mean you agreed to help them with anything. I'll add that this sub usually seems to think people aren't obligated to help roommates, particularly those who are treating you horribly and could choose to help themselves. So, regardless of whether you like them, agree with them, whatever, this is a matter of being a decent human being. I have on occasion helped a friend of a friend, or an acquaintance, neighbor, co-worker, with an emergency because it's simply something you do to help make your society a better place to live for everyone. That said, there are people I wouldn't give a glass of water in the desert to, but nothing in this story seems to rise to that level of hate. You're the a-hole. Posted by user, My Daughters Am I the A-hole? Titled, Am I the a-hole for going off on my 27 male sister, 32 female, when she criticized me for having a baby out of infidelity? I have a 2-year-old baby girl who is in my life right now. She was conceived out of wedlock, and after I had an affair with my then fiancé. I got the girl pregnant and kept this secret until a few weeks before my daughter was born. Once she found out, my then fiancé dumped me, of course. I was going through some things at the time, so the girl I cheated with wasn't much of a class act. She ended up in jail about 7 months later, and will be there for a very long time for child endangerment and cocaine possession. Luckily, my daughter is only in my hands now. My daughter being a result of my sleeping around is kinda like the elephant in the room. Most of us never talk about it, because frankly it's embarrassing for me, and I'm not sure if I ever want her to know how she was made. I say most people, because my big sister loves to bring up how awful I am. She got divorced from her high school sweetheart 5 years ago, because he cheated on her multiple times. She's bitter, and is now taking it out on me and my daughter. 2 Sundays ago, we had a family dinner with her kids, my daughter, our parents, and our youngest sister. Before dinner, we were chilling in our living room. After talking for a while about how we want our kids to grow up, she said, "Well, let's hope your daughter grows up more like your girlfriend than her mummy or daddy." I asked what was wrong with me, and she said that my daughter was going to have tons of men that want her someday, so she needs to learn to not run around on her partners. And obviously I can't teach her that. I was offended, but I let it slide, because she likes to say stupid things like this a lot. When we finally sat down to eat, she was still cracking jokes at my expense. The final straw was when she told my girlfriend that if we get engaged, she'd better get ready for another baby, because Mr. Man-whore over there might want to slip into another druggie behind another fiancé's back. I was incredibly ticked off. My girlfriend hates hearing about this, and I don't like her having to think about how much I messed up 2 years ago. I also feel like it implies that I'm ashamed of having our daughter from that situation, which I am not. I told her she needed to stop acting like a BR. She told me she would if I learned how to keep it in my pants. This escalated into a yelling fight over dinner. Eventually, I got fed up with this and decided to leave with my party. While getting up, my mum told me that I was acting immature and needed to start thinking like an adult and not argue with my sister. This set me off even more, and I left without saying a word to my family. Since that night, I've gotten calls and messages saying I needed to give an apology, and I have refused every time. My girlfriend says I reacted too harshly, but she understood where I came from. I haven't talked to my sisters since. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Okay, I left this out, but at a point in my life, before me and my current girlfriend got together, I may have been a serial cheater. I have cheated on every girlfriend or partner I've been with except my girlfriend at least once. I had some severe self-worth problems and emotional issues. I screwed up, and I hate to say this, but I didn't learn my lesson until I cheated on 2 other girls between my ex-fiancé and current girlfriend. But I have changed for the better. Yikes, that's really not something you want to hear. This is a mess, this man. His life is a mess. I mean, I can't blame the sister for having a go at him, because it's obvious he took so long to learn his message. It's probably warranted for the longest time that she kept having shots until he did learn his lesson. So I genuinely and definitely can understand why she was so pissed off at her brother for continuously making this same mistake and knowingly hurting so many people. But that said, I think she really did choose the wrong time and place to be starting that argument and upsetting even more people all over at the dinner table. Not a good thing to do. She's an a-hole for choosing that fight there. You're an a-hole for blowing up and reacting and not calming the situation down and moving it away from the kids and the family. Everyone sucks here for their actions they've taken, but you suck more OP for your continuous history and hurting so many people, and it's hard to forgive someone for doing that. So everyone sucks here, leaning on you're the a-hole OP. Everyone sucks here. Your sister clearly has issues of her own and is taking them out on you. Crappy move roping your girlfriend into it as well. She's definitely the bigger a-hole. I disagree. That said, the thing she's taking an issue with, your cheating, is a valid point. You don't recognize or acknowledge your poor decisions in stepping out on your then fiancé, nor do you plan to address this eventually with your daughter, who will most definitely have questions as she gets older. Your actions have had consequences for more than just you. Either your daughter will find out about this as she gets older, or your entire family will continue to indefinitely lie to her. That's a position your choices put them in. Eventually, I think you'll find that this isn't something you can just sweep under the rug and forget about. By the looks of it, your sister at least isn't going to shut up about it. Consider what, if anything, you plan to tell your child when this inevitably comes up in the future, before she hears it from someone else. Edit. I made this comment before OP's replies and post-edits. While I stand by an everyone sucks here judgment for this situation, I have to say, OP is a monumental a-hole in general, and this incident was obviously a match for a shed full of dynamite. OP, you have hurt many people multiple times, and you don't deserve a judgment in good faith. You saying you have changed is laughably inadequate. You haven't had enough time to prove it, in a pandemic no less, and there is very little reason to believe you. At this point, I'm even more worried for your daughter. There is no precedent in your behavior that suggests you won't fail her like every woman in your life. You already have by bringing 2 women into her life and then cheating on them. For her sake, I really hope you'll prove me and everyone else in this comment section wrong. But if there was ever a case of I'll believe it when I see it, it's yours. The girl I cheated with wasn't much of a class act. You're not much of a class act either, sweaty. Everyone sucks here. Your sister for raising a stink in front of other people and talking crap about an innocent child, and you for wanting to hide from your daughter the truth about her conception. Posted by user MalenToggle2334, titled, Am I the a-hole for deciding on my baby's name without its father? Long story short, I hooked up with this guy from university a couple of times and eventually got pregnant. I'm 22, he is 24 years old. I decided to keep the baby, involved him in the decision, and tried to do the best I can. Everything between us seemed to be fine. We were on a friendly basis and met regularly just to talk and stuff. He stopped talking to me when I was about 20 weeks pregnant. I knew I was having a boy at this point. He met some other girl and didn't want her to be involved in my pregnancy, so he decided to not be involved anymore as well. Okay, so I was all by myself, with support from my family. I'm now 34 weeks pregnant and decided on a name and everything. The name is quite unusual, but I've liked it for years. Baby's father called me yesterday to settle a different thing. Something about a car I sold to a friend of his, not too important. And we talked about the pregnancy a little. I initiated that because he wouldn't have said anything. I referred to the baby by its name, and he was wondering who I was talking about. I explained that this was going to be the baby's name, and I've decided to name him like that quite some weeks ago. He then called me a stupid tramp and a-hole for not involving him in this decision because it was his child too. But I guess since he stopped talking to me, I didn't even think about taking his advice here. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. Legally, I have to involve him somehow. I really need his money, and he is only obligated to give it to me if I present him as the father on the birth certificate. Then, if you put it all in that context, he's the a-hole for ghosting you like that, and then holding his money over you, and then berating you for not asking him what he would like to name the baby also, and it sounds like he's going to withhold his signature on the birth certificate. I don't really think it's your fault for not being in regular contact with him if he's moved on and found someone else. From what I can gather from this story, it doesn't particularly sound like he's interested in being part of this process, and part of anything really to do with that baby, until now when the baby name comes up, and yet he calls you a tramp and an a-hole for not involving him. It's weird loopy thinking. This guy sucks, not the a-hole OP. Not the a-hole. He may be legally required to be on the birth certificate, but that doesn't mean you need to involve him in naming decisions. Just having his name on the birth certificate of a boy he doesn't want to be involved anymore, gives him no right in deciding the name. I assume that you're in the US, and here in Austria, the right to the name of the kid, if there is no marriage, goes to the mother, and even when married, the parent who informs the registry office needs a signed letter of acceptance from the other parent. Not the a-hole. The kid is not a hobby that you involve yourself in when you are bored. If he doesn't want to be involved, then he doesn't get to be mad when he's not consulted. Not the a-hole. He hasn't spoken to the woman carrying his child in over 3 months. Maybe hearing a name associated with the baby made it feel real and caused him to freak out. Regardless, he shouldn't get to pick and choose which parts of being a father he wants to partake in. You certainly didn't get that choice. Not the a-hole, and referring to the part about the tramp and a-hole comments, he ditched you and his child. That's BS. If he wants the privilege of being in his child's life, then he needs to take on the responsibility of being in his child's life. And that responsibility includes putting in the work and respect needed to maintain a cordial relationship with the child's mother, at the very least. He fathered this child. That alone doesn't make him a father. And OP also says, I'm actually surprised that nobody told me that I'm the a-hole, to be honest. One of my closest friends is quite close to him too, and told me that I was acting unreasonable since I'm just pregnant, quote unquote. And he wants to be there for me once the baby is here, Lamau? What? What reason do you have to reasonably expect him to suddenly be involved when the baby is born? The guy should know how close you are to the due date. Obviously, you're going to have been choosing a name in this time. ETA, just to clarify, I meant as a rebuttal to the friend saying he wants to be involved, that it doesn't seem fair to expect you to think that he's going to genuinely change his interest level. Updates. Am I the a-hole for deciding on my baby's name without its father? First, I want to say thank you for your answers. They really helped me when I was struggling. So, 3 days ago, I gave birth to my beautiful baby boy, Silas, as I decided. I was still considering another name which was more usual, David, but decided to just go for it. I'm his mother, he lives with me, he is a part of me. I contacted Silas's father when I went into labor and did first contractions, but nothing. I then told him his weight, etc., but still nothing. I left the hospital the day before yesterday already, and he showed up at my place with a basket full of diapers and stuff, which was cute. He then told me that he still doesn't want to be involved because he feels like he's not in the right place, but he is paying, and he told me that he would try and reach out from time to time. I don't know how to feel about that yet, but yeah, what can I do? He also told me that he still doesn't like the name, but that he will eventually get used to it someday. Oh, and his girlfriend dumped him. But that's just a little side note that made me smile because of Schadenfreude. I know, a little mean. So, sorry for the bad format. I'm on the phone and trying to be the best that I can. Still not the a-hole. If he doesn't want to be involved in raising the baby, he's not the father in my honest opinion. So he doesn't get a say in the name either. And congratulations on the new baby. Enjoy it as much as possible while he is still young. Edit, missed the original, still felt like telling you not the a-hole. Silas is a really nice name. Common names can get really annoying. Like, do you mean me, or do you mean one of the other threes who share my name? Our naming system is just so uncreative. Unique names that aren't something weird like ABCD, pronounced ABCD, are great. My parents gave me such a name that I would be willing to bet I am the only person to have ever lived with my full name. First name, not, but full name almost certainly. Though robots had pronouncing it, people too actually sometimes. Posted by user Satanic Toaster. Titled, Would I be the a-hole if I only gamed late at night to avoid conflict, much to my mother's disapproval? For some backstory, due to what's going on in the world right now, everyone in my family is living under the same roof. My mum, 42 female, now works from home. My dad, 47 male, thankfully still has a job outside of the home. And all my siblings, 15 male twin, 11 male, and 7 female, I am the oldest one out of the bunch, 19 female, and have always been the nerdier one out of the group. I enjoy a mass majority of nerdy franchises and going to Comic-Con. It's been a point of teasing growing up after my siblings all grew out of their interest in things like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Aliens, comics, etc. Being that we are all under the same roof means we all share the same PS4 and are all at home at the same time as each other. Normally, I am away at college and am only home during the summertime, but because of the circumstances right now, I moved out of my dorm early. Now that there is a bunch of free time on my hands, I invested in a game I had wanted to play for a while, one of the Dragon Age games, so that I also had something to do, you know? I waited my turn to use the PS4 and quite enjoyed my time on the game. That was, until the rest of the day I was teased for my gaming choice. I normally can laugh off a jab here and a jab there about my interests, because I'm used to that. But even my brother's friends they would invite over joined in on the fun. I hate to sound like a child, and as I'm writing this out, I feel like that's how I'm coming across, but there is only so many times my siblings saying, "It's a wizard, Harry," or "Har har har, I cast magic, dur da dur," in the most obnoxious of voices. I attempted to enjoy my game time during the following days, but my brothers would just walk past and make remarks about how dumb my game is, how old it is, or remarks alike. Most of the remarks come from the 11-year-old twins and their friends, but the 15-year-old one joins in too sometimes. I decided I would just play my game when my brothers went to bed, so after 11 PM or midnight, and play till 1 AM. This doesn't stop their teasing obviously, but this way I can enjoy my game without being made fun of, and it helps me not want to snap back at them as much. My mother yesterday told me that she doesn't like me staying up that late, and that I need to find a time to play my game during the day. I told her that the boys make fun of me and I can't really enjoy my time gaming when they act like that. Granted, my mum doesn't like that I game, period, traditional stuff and how it's a turn-off for suitors, quote-unquote, and thinks that it is very childish of me to take what my brothers say to heart and that it's their job to be a pain in the butt. So, would I be the a-hole if I continue playing my game after everyone went to bed? I'm struggling to comprehend your mum's thought process here. That traditional mindset, I feel like we should have grown out of that by now. Who the hell still talks about suitors in this day and age? And, we're perpetuating the boys' club mentality. It's their job to be a pain in the butt. If we're thinking along those lines, then, it's also OP's job to slap them down and, punish them for being pains in the butt, because their actions have consequences, right? Would it not be okay for OP to physically enact change in the house that would stop these people from verbally abusing OP? Or would that be too much in the mum's traditional mindset? Because that's how it was back in the day. I'll just go get my belt out, shall I? I, as someone in a position of authority, should be allowed to do that because it's the traditional thing to do, is it not? That sounds kind of messed up, doesn't it? Well, yeah, so does OP's mother's backwards ass thinking. That's kind of messed up too. She's an enabler to the highest degree, and it shows. OP, not the a-hole, continue what you're doing. You're 19, you don't have to listen to your mother anymore. It is what it is. You would not be the a-hole. If you can't enjoy the game during the day, and you're not disturbing anyone when you're playing at night, then it sounds like your mum is enabling your brother's behavior, which isn't good. And I think she's wrong to say it's their job to be a pain in the butt. Thank you for this. My mum has felt that me playing late at night is me disrespecting her, but hearing this, it makes me feel better. I felt the same way, that she was validating them, but she never does anything to deter what they say, and lets it get heated at times. I feel like she just has that boys will be boys mentality. Not the a-hole. Your brothers suck for shaming you for something you enjoy. It's not hurting anyone, so screw them. Your mum may not love it, but 1 AM is a pretty reasonable time for a 19-year-old, and you've found an arrangement that doesn't make you feel shame for playing. Your brothers need to grow up and let you enjoy things. Thank you. For a while, I felt like maybe I was just being sensitive and taking their comments too harshly. But after reading this, I wish I could say screw them, but hearing this validation is a close second. Not the a-hole. Yes, you were 19, and sure, maybe you should be a bit better at ignoring your siblings' taunts. I've been there though, and I know how hard it can be when you hear the same things over and over about your interests. Again, you're 19. As long as you're being polite about the noise level and you're getting other things you need done during the day, I don't see an issue with you deciding your own bedtime. It's not like you have to get up at 6 to 7 AM right now anyway. Update: would I be the a-hole if I only gamed late at night, much to my mother's disapproval? I am happy to announce that things between my brothers and me have improved tremendously. Not so much my mother since my last post. I've also managed to spread my nerdy influence a bit around the households. Someone in the comments of my previous post mentioned that maybe my brothers were wanting to spend more time with me. I managed to get the twins, 11 male, and my sister to sit down and watch the first Harry Potter movie with me. Before I moved away, me and the younger siblings would have a TV series that we would all watch together, and Harry Potter was something none of them had seen. It was awesome. Not only did all 3 kids love the first movie, but we made a thing out of it. We would get snacks and we watched every single Harry Potter in under 2 weeks. We are now making our way through The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, which are movies that before the kids would have told me that are dumb and not cool. Beyond movie nights, I've started taking out one of the younger kids for a lunch date every few days to get one-on-one time with them. Not once after watching these shows together have I heard a negative remark about my game. I even got another Dragon Age game and haven't heard a rude peep out of them. My sisters have even started playing Minecraft and proclaiming herself a gamer girl, much to my mother's displeasure. I have picked up a few more feminine hobbies, like cooking, jewelry making, painting, etc., that seem to get my mom off my back about my gaming, and she has only had good things to say about our little movie nights because it's let her go to bed earlier and leave the kids in my hands. So yeah, kind of an anticlimactic, but I don't think I've felt this close to the little 3 in a long time. Thank you to everyone who gave their support in the comments. Tons of love to you guys. OP, I disagree with you calling this anticlimactic. This is one of the best outcomes that could have happened. You're having fun with your siblings. You connected with them with your interests, and you've influenced them with something you're passionate about. Now your relationship with them has improved tremendously. Yes, things could have gotten better with your mum, but at least now you're having a greater time instead of previously. And OP says, I guess putting it that way does make it sound more climactic, and the outcome has been amazing. I feel like I'm getting to know each of my siblings on a deeper level, especially the twins. Those two I have always had a harder time connecting with, and now we are even developing our own inside jokes. Posted by user Chaotic Nature 32, titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my sister and her kids move into the house that I bought? I'm a 32-year-old woman and I just bought my first house. It has 3 bedrooms, a yard, and is just what I need right now. I'm single and have 2 dogs. My sister is 34, has 3 children, and lives in a 2-bedroom apartment. Lately, she's been talking about how such a tiny living space is not enough for the 4 of them. When she got to know about the house I had bought, she became very upset and told me I was being wasteful as I'm single and don't have kids, and therefore don't need such a big space. I reminded her that what I do with my hard-earned money is none of her business. She went on to complain to our mother about how selfish I was being. Yesterday evening, I got a call from my mum telling me I should let my sister and her kids move into the house. My house. I told her that no one was going to live in the house that I paid for, but me. And that extra space would be great for my dogs to play in. My mum also got very upset with me and told me that I was being unreasonable. That my sister's kids are growing and need the space more than my dogs. I offered to help my sister out financially so she could rent a bigger place. My mum got my sister on the phone who shot down the idea, telling me that I needed to let her and her kids live in my house. When I refused again, she very generously suggested a compromise. I could live in the house with her and her kids, and would not have to find somewhere else to live. She said this as if she was doing me a favor. I told her she had lost her mind, and I hung up. Am I the a-hole, or is she? I know my sister is struggling financially, but this kind of entitlement is ridiculous. Yes, the entitlement is r/entitled parents level of entitlement for this one. Who the hell does she think she is demanding that she come and live in your house, and then getting your mum on her side too? That's disgusting. She's fallen on her own sword with this one. She's put herself in the financial situation that she is, and them strong-arming you into having your house is not the way to go about it. This is perhaps just a situation where you go no contact, let them see how ridiculous they are being, and if I were you, I would just wait for the aliens of normality to come down and probe them with the stick of sensibility, because they are not being sensible right now. OP, not the a-hole. Update. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my sister and her kids move into the house that I bought? First and foremost, I want to thank all of you for your kind and supportive comments, and for all those awards. You're all beautiful. After getting the verdict from Am I the a-hole, I decided to send my sister and mum a link to this post, letting them know that I had made it. As expected, they freaked the hell out. My mum has been texting me telling me what a horrible daughter I am and how I've embarrassed her in front of so many people. I told her to calm down, as these are all strangers on the internet who have no idea who she is. But asking my mum to listen to reason is like asking my cat to stop shoving things off of horizontal surfaces. So I told her I'd talk to her when she's willing to act like an adult. My sister has been crying about this to my mum and any other relative who will listen. Most of them won't. They had been on my side from the start and had agreed that my sister's demands were ridiculous. They think this whole thing is hilarious. Thank you once again. Edits. Some of you asked if in my original post if I really thought I was the a-hole. I didn't, of course. I just wanted to show my mum and sister what a group of unbiased observers would think of their behavior. Riley Gray says, I'm so glad. She was so crazy. We are still totally here for more updates, by the way. I imagine you've got more stories than just this. OP should tell her mum that she should be embarrassed by her actions. Why wouldn't she be embarrassed for this crap? Maybe she will learn something and not do embarrassing, unfair, ridiculous crap in the future. I would have loved to be a fly on the wall when your sister and mum read the replies to your original post. It's exactly what they deserve too, reading what tons of strangers think of their pathetic and ridiculous behavior. I hope she reads this update too. If you are reading this OP's mum, you and OP's sister are acting like entitled brats who think the world revolves around them. Your situation is your own making, and while families do and should help each other, kicking someone out of their own home is insane and ridiculous. Perhaps if you were more kind and loving to OP throughout their life, then they might be more inclined to help, but you get treated the way you treat others. This whole OP has a house so I want their house is something a 2-year-old would say, for Christ's sake. Grow up. This reminds me of what my dad used to say. Treat everyone with respect as long as they don't disrespect you. You don't know who they are, where they're from, or what they'll be in the future. You don't know how you can help them or they can help you in the future either. And of course, help people that you can. Edited for spelling. Very wise remarks. I wish more people thought like that. Okay, and I think that's where we're going to end today's episode, guys. As always, I do hope you enjoyed it, and maybe even learned something from these stories. Just want to say a quick shout out to my Patreon subscribers and my channel members. You guys should be on the screen right now. If you do see yourself, I want you to give yourself a little pat on the back for being amazing and supporting me on this channel, this little journey we're going on the YouTubes. I really appreciate it, and you guys enabled me to do all this amazing work. So if you do see yourself, I love your face and I'm happy to see you. Also guys, if you want to pitch in your own support, you don't have to, but channel links are down in the description below to support the Patreon, the channel membership, whatever you want to do. It's kind of like tipping me if you feel like I'm doing a good job on this channel. I will be opening up avenues for content on those in the future. Just right now I'm kind of bogged down and stuck in Ireland, but you know, it is what it is. Anyway guys, with that said, I do hope you have a wonderful day today. Whatever you're up to, I'd love to know down in the comments below. I do hope you have a good day, night, sleep. Whatever you're up to today, tell me, and I'll see you in the next episode, guys. Bye.